crashing through the lies and disinformation. It's Alex Jones on the GCN Radio Network.
All right, we've got the one, the only Sean Stone with us about 15 more minutes. Then I'm going to air a special report, premiere it here on air. The UN wants to take over your town. And, you know, their capital is New York City. This is really happening. Now, continuing, we're talking to Sean Stone, film producer, film editor, TV host, TV investigative reporter with the new Jesse Ventura Conspiracy Theory show. He's one of the co-stars of it. I was honored to be involved, and I haven't even asked him. I think I'm in 3 or 4 of the 8 episodes coming up. I was on big Discovery Channel show, Inside Conspiracy Theories, or The Secrets of Secret Societies. I didn't even watch it. Everybody said it was pretty good Sunday night. That's how much I'm into myself. I'm not really proud of that. I just, every time I talk about myself, it feels really weird now. I used to have more of an ego. People think I'm an egomaniac. I'm really an aggressive person who wants freedom. It just feels weird to go, I didn't even watch myself on that TV show. But I'm definitely going to watch this TV show because I like the people that are involved in it. Sean Stone, we've got this clip. Again, I don't normally get into a lot of this stuff, but, you know, you say you've been getting harassed and stuff. You're a prominent person, and I would guess that when you get these spoof 666 calls, we've had the NSA call us, and it says NSA, and we call the number back, it is the NSA. Well, I think that's someone spoofing it. So, you know, what makes you think with the harassment, you and your associate who've now put out this film about Greystone, that this isn't PSYOPs harassing you, sir?
I have no idea that it's not psyops, but that's why I think it's important to put it out, because if it is psyops, it goes to show you what kind of psyops these guys are into. And it's obviously, it is ritualistic. It's not just some pranksters in a basement messing around with this kind of stuff.
Well, before we get to this, what do you make of all these Hollywood people? I'm not going to name names, but I'm sure you know about it, who say that there's a satanic mafia, that the major starlets are under mind control, that there's massive Satanism. We know about the Satanism, the Rolling Stones with a dead kid in their room and didn't get in trouble. It goes on and on, but all these other women coming out saying there's control, and famous male actors running to Canada and saying there's a mafia and they're Satanist. Is that really just a mafia trying to creep people out saying, ooga booga, we're Satanist, you know, wearing a white sheet? Or is there more to it? Because I've talked to some pretty high-powered Hollywood folks. I know you run in even bigger circles, but some of the biggest people out there, and they say, not just with Scientology and stuff, but that there are really weird cults and things out there.
Yeah, I'm sure. I mean, I don't know if it's not, they don't call themselves Satanists, but of course, you know, when you're in an industry that worships power, and the design, you know, obviously the design of it is to keep people in a position of being consistently in need of the next level of power. So you're, you know, it's essentially a phallically designed system of control.
Isn't it ridiculous? I'm sorry, go ahead.
I don't know who was ultimately behind it, and you know, they're not all bad. You know, there's good people who are doing magic, but as someone told me, you know, recently, he said a lot of these stars that are involved in magic, you know, they believe that they're doing it for the best possible interest, which is, you know, to help their creativity, to explore, you know, other realms of consciousness, and to try to be a conduit, you know, of white magic. But he says they're ultimately being formulated through their involvement in magic into cult-like cells of control, and they're not realizing it necessarily. And I think that is more likely, that people are, you know, who have good intentions or want to do something positive are just ultimately being manipulated.
Well, take Lady Gaga, Madonna, all of it. Those are all Kabbalic rituals. They admit their rituals. And she's had her own crew go public. It's come out. She thinks she has to have people in the room at all times because ghosts and demons are after her, she believes. Is that mental illness? Well, regardless, she gets into the occult. Now this is happening to her. You know, I mean, for me, that's just a door I don't open, something I don't go into.
That's the only one. Like we said, Madonna talked about it years ago. You had Amy Winehouse talking about how her producer wanted to put her inside of a pyramid on her album cover, and she rejected it. And a week later, she was dead. I mean, she said that publicly in one of the YouTube clips you can look up. And it's just, you know, it's not just them. I mean, you get the the multiple personalities claimed by Beyonce and Rihanna's possession activity, weird, acting possessed, and so many of these talented artists, like you're talking about, are showing the indications of MK Ultra control. I mean, what is the whole concept of Hannah Montana, Miley Cyrus? They're showing these girls you can be like, the sex kitten or the good girl, and they're still, you're promoting multiple personalities in these people. It's not like overt, but it's there.
Well, here's an example. Joe Rogan, who's not into the occult, really smart, great guy, longtime friend of mine. He invited me out to a UFC in Las Vegas, and we went to the same pyramid that we, did some interviews there for your TV show, Jesse Ventura's TV show, Tyrell's show. And we go to the bar in the pyramid, and the VIP sections go up like a pyramid themselves. And everyone was just just wanting to be at the top of the pyramid with Dana White of UFC and Joe Rogan, and I'm up there. And I was looking down at the people in the different layers of the pyramid, looking up at us at the top of the pyramid, and it was like parrots, cockatoos in Australia that want to, get on the highest perch. It's just ridiculous. And, Joe wasn't even conscious of it. We were just up there drinking beer and stuff, but the other people were. And it was just so ridiculous to be being worshipped because I was sitting on the top of the pyramid. It's just ridiculous.
Yeah, but that's why I say, the concept of Illuminati and the rulers being all evil is not true. And Mason's not true. There are many good ones, because at the end of the day, it's your spiritual path. That's what you have to choose. It's your choice. Do you want to use the powers that you have? It's a Faustian question. Do you want to use your powers to serve God, to do what's right? Or do you choose the easy path to manipulate others to gain worldly goods? And that's the choice every human being faces. So
sure, but I don't even think Dana White and Joe Rogan, that's just the most VIP area is, with 3 or 4 levels, like a pyramid, inside the pyramid, in the bar. You go up steps to the top, you're at the best view of the dance thing. See how it's all designed where people that aren't into this don't see it. And I'm up here going, we're on top of pyramid, and everybody's looking up here at us. It was so incredibly obvious that we're inside a giant pyramid with Illuminati stuff everywhere, and I'm here with powerful people on the top of a pyramid. And then, I mean, why do the elites do that? What is the point of a pyramid within a pyramid?
A pyramid within a pyramid? Because there's always a hierarchy. The question really is, can we go from this hierarchical type of control system to something more of a circular reciprocity, a concept of a harmony of interests, which is what I believe is the best order of society. A republic is based on that idea, right? You elect your representatives, they have to answer to you. There's an involvement of the people. There's an education process that has to go on because each of us depends on each other. There's no economy whereby, right now we have an economy of slavery. We basically buy things from China, which is practically slavery, and a lot of the rest of the world that we're buying cheap goods, and we're thinking, hey, we're making a lot of money. But you're involving yourself in a system that promotes slavery, and it's forcing down your economic wages for your own work.
Exactly. So many good old boys, very well said. So many good old boys, they think, hey, we're getting it from the slaves in China. Ah, ha, ha. That's sucking everybody down. We're destroying ourselves. Why we abuse those people.
Exactly. And that's why the system as a whole is the pyramid. It's not about the Illuminati being illuminated people. There are illuminated people who are aware of it, but there are those who are just, who are really just feeding into this hierarchical system, who are not conscious enough to wake up. And so the spiritual path is waking people up to realize every one of us is responsible for our destiny. We have to become participants in this world. We have to recognize the problem and start to fix it. We can't simply, hey, sell out and just try to join the club and be at the top of the pyramid, as you said.
Well, that's part of it. As it gets more and more destructive, as the sucking sound intensifies, as people start dying at the bottom, not just living in squalor, then to be in the middle of the pyramid is to be in squalor, whereas before the middle of the pyramid was to be wealthy. And pretty soon, it's a tiny elite in armored redoubts with robots and drones protecting them, and just destroyed mayhem road warrior outside. And then they call that Agenda 21 and admit that Hunger Games scenario is what they're after, French Revolution-style Jacobinism. And then you find out that those at the very top actually are pit of hell, Hellraiser death lovers. I mean, I think that's what it is. And when we're unconscious, we give them the power.
When we're unconscious, we give them the power. As we wake ourselves up, we illuminate ourselves. We become the illuminated ones. We become the Illuminati. We can then challenge their reign, but only when we wake ourselves up.
But some will say, oh my gosh, Sean Stone here is saying join the Illuminati. No, it's a counterfeit. They say be illuminated, but they mean darkness for everybody else but them. But they're still not illuminated, or they would not be trying to hurt people. They are the ultimate victim of their own con, when all illuminated means is you really see the big picture, you're outside the box.
You know, there's an interesting thing. When Dark Knight Rises came out, I'd heard that word in my head for some reason, the consciousness 3 years ago, rise. And when I got phone calls over the years, it was always from what they called themselves the fallen angels, right? The fallen who'd fallen with Lucifer to earth and were bound here. And I said to them, rise, you can come back to God. And I think that was a symbol that was being sent out. The Dark Knight rises, right? The Dark Knight are like the fallen angels with the wings, right? And so, but there's always there's a positive side to it, which is that the idea that the fallen can return home to God. And the negative side of it, which is like the Aurora mass shooting, promoting the dark night, which is night itself, as opposed to a golden dawn. There's like a very interesting symbolism going on. So there's a war. Aurora was where the shooting took place around Dark Night. Aurora is the goddess of the dawn. So that's the golden dawn. The Dark Night is the place of the shooting.
Oh, yeah, that was clearly a ritual. But take Bane in the first scene, whenever the aircraft is hooked up to the other one, they're about to kill everybody on board. And the minion, he says, minion, you've got to stay here and kill yourself so there's an equal number of bodies. And the guy's happy to be sacrificed. So they're telling you this is a willing sacrifice, you know, the best kind for the dark occultist. And he says, there's a fire coming.
Yes.
And he says, fire goes up. And again, that's rising. The demons are going up. And then they go up. They go up into the sky. The angels are coming back up. There's a fire coming. Fire goes up. You're absolutely right. That was all a ritual.
There's a lot involved in all these things, all these films. You know, you see it in Spider-Man films. You know, the triangles all over the place. The devil sign that he's throwing.
The last Spider-Man, the guy thinks he's going to the next level of evolution, becoming a reptoid.
Reptilian, of course, yeah. There's all these things that just, you know, it's fun because it's like how the human mind is evolving, and they're planting the messages they want you to think about. And so, as I said, it's time for us to wake ourselves up, to start to listen and really think about what's being shown to us, and conjure an alternative route or a counter.
Well, what Bane's saying is hell is rising, hell raising.
Yeah.
Fire goes up, a hell raising.
Yeah, there is a whole emerging. I mean, it was released on June 20th, which I think was the day of one of the moon landings. It's a very powerful day as far as astrology is concerned. So there was a lot of just a convergence of energies in that day, and I think, you know, we're in 2012. It's been an interesting year, man. I've seen people waking up more and more. They're recognizing karma. They're recognizing the consequence of their actions. So hopefully this is an opening to a more positive era, a realization of us as human beings and respect for each other as human beings, as opposed to becoming more virtual, which is where I think a lot of it's going with the technology side of the Apple and you know, the Mac revolution and whatnot. It's like they want to put us into a virtual reality. And I say, no, we're in a physical reality. Let's treat each other as such, and let's try to elevate our fellow man in a physical context, not just in a virtual context.
I agree, and only use the virtual to reach into the matrix and warn people.
Indeed.
Wow, powerful. Let's play this clip. Now, what is this we're about to hear and see?
This is a phone call that Alex and Wraith and I received, and we received a string of them from people claiming to be associated with Albert Pike, who was, you know, he was a dead head of the Illuminati from the 19th century, and I think some people say he's still alive because he entered a different dimension, as is Aleister Crowley, apparently still alive, or time traveling or whatnot. But this was a group that was associated with him doing a ritual, calling us to try to basically tap into an energy, because we're working on our next film project, and they're basically trying to tap into the energy that we're creating, which is a positive, cheerful comedy of the fist, raising the fist, you know, which is basically the symbol of revolution and resistance, right? We want people in the streets again. We want to have real characters in film. We want to enliven the spirit, and they're trying to tap into it and create a darker energy around us. And so that's what they did by calling us and doing a ritual. You'll hear this ritual that they're performing. They're trying to basically steer our energy in a different direction, a negative direction.
All right, let's go to that clip. Here it is.
The dark fist rise?
There will be no dark fist rising.
I am not... man, I know what they are. Cop, what's that, cop?
There will be no dark fist rising.
Oh my god, man. Don't have the dark fist rise. What do you want, demon? What is your name? State your name.
name of God, you had banished sin. You should pray.
I am.
What prayer do you know?
State your name.
Just say a prayer. Focus on the prayer. Focus on the prayer. Focus on the prayer. Focus on the prayer. You're doing a ritual to try to...
State your claim. State your claim. Calling Baal. State your claim, demon.
Baal's not going to come help them. Baal's gone.
All right, and you're showing the phone there because you kept getting these calls, so you videotaped it, and it's a few numbers and then 666, 6666 or whatever. And I mean, somebody could have spoofed that, obviously, but the point is you got weirdos messing with you.
Yeah, but obviously, you know, there's not many people know what we're working on. This is very confidential stuff. So the point is that, you know, I recorded it, and when I put that on Facebook, and I got a phone call from 666 that night from someone claiming he represented Azazel in the other side, and they were very unhappy, and they're probably going to be very unhappy that we aired it. But I think it's important to show that, you know, this is real. This is the kind of stuff that, you know, I've been dealing with for 3 years, and Alex has been dealing with for longer than that. And you know, people don't want to believe it. That's their choice. But it's our job to try to inform you and inform the public that this is the kind of stuff that goes on. These rituals are real. This is reality. And we have to confront that.
Well, I've been to Bohemian Grove, and people say, oh, that's just a play. Well, that's where religion comes from, is the original rituals were done up on a stage. People are watching. And,
exactly.
I mean, that's...
Films are so important rituals, aren't they? They're just like those plays of old.
Exactly. So they're doing it over and over again, and I was there. Those old men took that deadly serious. I mean, they were really getting off on this. They were taking it very seriously.
They do take it seriously, and that's why, you know, as I said, you can't make a judgment as to and saying that, you know, they're purely evil. You know, they are in this video. They talk about Baal. You know, they're worshiping Baal, and historically Baal's been associated with demons, right? But it's pre-Christian, pre-Judaic. So there's an origin to it, and you have to have a respect for these entities that you're dealing with, and we have to inform ourselves and enlighten ourselves. You know, I don't think it helps to just write everything off as demonic, but to just let's start to talk about this, and let's become more informed as to what they're doing and why. Well,
I think Baal's demonic. I think they burn children to it, but it's all pretty wild. You know, all I know is some of this is covered in the new Ventura series that's coming up as well. I mean, not this specifically, but what is it, like 4 of the episodes are more, you know, classic things you can document, and I guess 4, from what I've been told, are kind of, you know, getting off into the Hintner land. But, you know, they did two of the series where they just hit mainstays, you know, not normally media covers all the occult stuff, but puts their own dumbing down spin to it.
Indeed, yeah, the occult has been laughed at, but frankly, you know, more and more it's becoming prominent. I remember the last 10 years, because of YouTube, because of videos, and now you have films like Sinister, who openly talks about Bagul, which is basically Baal type of creature, right, who feeds on the sacrifices of human children. This is becoming more mainstream. So, you know, 10 years ago, you couldn't talk about the occult in the same way, Alex, that you can do now, which is, like I said, it's positive in a certain sense. We can become more informed and enlightened about it. But it's negative insofar as we don't want people to then, you know, start practicing these rituals. I'm not trying to tell people go out and practice witchcraft or sorcery. I don't believe in that. I think that there's one God. God creates us, and we should worship God, and we should have faith in God's will, and to force your will, which is the Crowleyan dark side of magic, is to impose your will over the will of others, and that leads you to the
no. Instead, we let God work through us for His will. Absolutely, that's the difference. Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, look at the stuff coming out about Dominique Strauss-Kahn, admittedly in underground grottos in big eyes wide shut orgies. The New York Times described it as eyes wide shut, and this stuff's just coming out in the open. I mean, again, that's all about the will to go in public and have sex with people. It's all about, because that's not really fun. I mean, for normal people, in my view, you know, the whole point is about having the will to go out and do wild stuff like that. And that's just a doorway into deeper things.
It's a doorway, as you said, and it indicates certain levels of possession. You know, I've seen it in people who they blank it out. Like, it's like drinking too much. You know, you're alcoholics. They don't remember what they're doing. Demon possession is similar. There are doorways that's how they control these. A lot of people, these people I think are under control of these entities or whatnot, the dark forces. And they're not always, you know, in control of their own faculties and are aware of it because they've given their soul. And that's the one thing I've always been asked. You know, it's like, give us your soul. And I always say, you know, you can't have it. God, my soul belongs to God. I don't know how I can give you my soul anyway. Only God can give it to you.
Well said. Sean Stone, thank you so much for spending time with us. Where can people find out more about the TV show or websites, Facebook, Twitter?
So Conspiracy Theory is coming out November 7th. There's a Conspiracy Theory Facebook page. Got a lot of followers, so they should check that out. Like I said, Greystone Park, my feature film, is out on DVD, on Walmart and Blockbuster and on demand. There's a Facebook page as well for that. And then the next movie, Enter the Fist, which is going to be an action comedy to counter this kind of dark fist nonsense that they want to do, Dark Knight, dark everything. Enter the Fist is going to be an action comedy. It's going to be, good spirit. We have a website for it called fistthemovie.com. And we want to get the fist in the air again. That's the sign now. Like, we want people back in the streets with their fist in the air and being socially conscious and radical, and just we need revolution, and that's the spirit of revolution, not against the Republic, but for the Republic of the United States.
All right, Sean Stone, thank you so much for the time. Maybe we'll cross our fingers and you'll get your daddy on here to talk about his TV show. Because, I haven't asked you before to try to get him on, but now that his history show is coming out, I'd really love to help him launch that. Thank you so much, Sean Stone.
Absolutely. Thank you, Alex.
All right, there goes Sean Stone. We're not going to take a break because it's commercial-free until I'm back 11 a.m. tomorrow. We're going to take not a break, but a chance here to air at least part of, as we get John Rappoport, investigative journalist, on, who I appreciate coming on a little bit late. The UN wants to take over your town. And then we're going to post this video up at Infowars.com. This is a part 3 of Melissa Melton and Aaron Dykes' report on just here around Austin, Texas, where they're coming in and taking over the private property and things, and it's all UN funded, and the UN brags that that's happening. So here is the UN wants to take over your town. Folks, donate at InfoWarsMoneyBomb.com. That's the money that helps have reporters to do this type of reporting to be able to fight the globalists. There's too much for me to handle. That's why I've hired the reporters. We're launching the TV show. We're trying to get the satellite uplinks and get everything paid for. InfoWarsMoneyBomb.com. InfoWarsMoneyBomb.com. Physically support. Don't just say you support us. Spread the word, donate, buy books, buy videos. All the ways you can support InfoWarsMoneyBomb.com, and email InfoWarsMoneyBomb.com out to everybody. Tell them, hey, Alex Jones is on right now, 48-hour marathon broadcast with amazing special guests, special reports, and more. Here's one of those, and we're coming back with John Rappoport via video Skype. Stay with us.
I'm Melissa Melton here with Aaron Dykes for InfoWars Nightly News, where we're attending the 3rd in a series of sustainable development meetings here in Central Texas. Concentrated, smart, balanced urban growth. That's troubling to you.
That's downtown Austin. And this is not downtown Austin.
It's really up to you. It's your plan. It's your city. The small town rural feeling is going away.
This is how Agenda 21 takes over a small town.
For the purposes of the survey, go with your gut. However, we've given you a hard copy of the survey.
This is a typical kind of push-pull sort of meeting. It's based on the Texas Triangle thing, where they're trying to increase density between Dallas and Houston and San Antonio, and Austin just happens to be in the middle of that.
These plans were created by a stakeholder group, correct?
Which plans?
Plans that you guys are talking about here, the ones that you're bringing here.
We're still in the process of trying to understand what people want in their towns. So there are no plans at this point. We have empty maps.
We're not starting from sort of an empty slate.
We don't have a single solution or agenda that we're trying to impose on everyone.
They're telling planners how to lie to the people and how to lie to elected officials, and how to manage people like us, how to shut us down.
ICLEI's local Agenda 21 planning guide laid out the formula for successful implementation of sustainable development schemes, starting with a partnership and using a community-based issue analysis before putting the plan into action, then implementing and monitoring its subcomponents. Mari Strong, the leading voice behind the United Nations Agenda 21, endorsed the local Agenda 21 planning guide, calling upon local and regional municipalities to, quote, hit the trenches, saying, of the many programs that have resulted from the Earth Summit, none is more promising or important than this one, which has hundreds of local authorities around the world now setting out and implementing their local Agenda 21s. The planning guide explains how the use of local and community terminology gives legitimacy to this implementation of sustainable development, all while the stakeholder group made up of local corporations and bureaucrats is given the real power. I'm here with Jeff Barton, and he's been kind enough to speak with us at the past two meetings, both in Hutto as well as in, where was the first one at? Elgin?
Elgin.
Well, I tracked down the local Agenda 21 planning handbook.
The local Agenda 21 planning handbook, okay?
Yes, sir.
All right, looks interesting. Who puts it out?
It was published with the United Nations Environmental Program, and it was published with the ICLEI. That's an NGO for local Agenda 21 implementation.
Okay, all right.
I find it interesting they use a lot of the same buzz terms. For instance, they've got a glossary here of some of their sustainable development planning. They've got community meetings. They've got public hearings. They've got vision building. They've got workshops. And they've got specific outlines for how to approach the community, how to define and build the stakeholders groups. A lot of the same terminology we see in the Sustainable Places Project, developed through the consortium with CAPCOG and the other groups.
I don't feel like that's direction from the United Nations, or from any nefarious group. But, if that's the recommendation of the United Nations, that you have a lot of community input, then it's one I would agree with.
Well, I'm at the UT School of Architecture, and this has been the assignment to all the major architecture schools for years, to figure out a way to push massive density into the cities and into the small towns that they've chosen. And this particular thing is nothing but a Campo-related deal.
For more than 10 years, Campo and related entities have been pushing the larger sustainable development agenda as set out by the United Nations here in Central Texas. 1998, the Transportation Equity Act for the 21st Century, TEA 21, is enacted at a taxpayer cost of $218 billion for 6 years. The Smart Growth Initiative begins, and Austin, Texas hosts a National Development Conference. 1999, Central Texas Sustainability Indicators Project is launched. 2000, Capital Area Regional Transportation Planning Organization begins meeting. Transportation Excellence for the 21st Century, or TEX 21, implements T21 regionally. 2001, Envision Central Texas, ECT, and the Center for Sustainable Development, CSD, at University of Texas, Austin are both founded. 2002, Envision Central Texas holds its first public workshops and gathers community input in 5 Texas counties. 2005, the Capital Area Metropolitan Planning Organization, CAMPO, publishes its 2035 Regional Growth Concept Initiative. 2009, the Central Texas Green Print for Growth, a regional action plan for conservation and economic opportunity, is published by CAPCOG, the Trust for Public Land, and Envision Central Texas. 2010, the Capital Area Texas Sustainable Consortium receives a $3.7 million HUD grant, and the Sustainable Places Project begins. 2011, Campo releases a growth monitoring report spanning 2006 to 2010. 2012, Obama signs the $118 billion MAP 21, aka Moving Ahead for Progress in the 21st Century, to continue the TEA 21 initiative. More recently, we've seen local communities pushing back across the map, rejecting HUD grants and refusing to participate in Agenda 21.
We've seen members of the community begin to ask their own questions and speak back and give their own spontaneous feedback, something we didn't see at the past meetings, and in some cases it was a heated exchange.
I own guns. I don't think they're going to take that. We'll go back and catalog.
Please don't take my comments negative. I support you 100%, but I want to make sure that what you deliver is something that's acceptable to Dripping Spring.
They were actually standing up and interrupting their pre-scripted PowerPoint presentation with their clickers and their questions. I mean, we had one guy stand up and say, "This isn't cool. You've got 4 questions coming up, and all of the answers are bad. What do? I don't want any of these."
So was there an option on these 4 different questions to vote none of the above? Otherwise, this community goes back with the idea that we want some of each of these 4 things in that area.
It was really throwing them off.
So how do we register?
What I would ask is to go ahead and note that, and on the hard copy of the survey, we are collecting those, we are tabulating.
That's exactly what you're instructed to do. They're like, oh yeah, you write that on a Post-it. We'll be sure and put it in the round file later.
But you're welcome just to grab a pen and a sticky note and give us ideas about things you'd like to see.
Effectively, the people in here, by making multiple choice questions in a limited range of options, have effectively endorsed some big effort to go build a high-density community, basically so that they can go back with a manipulated set of data that says the people of that community want this. Well, we didn't have a choice.
So to just give you a little bit of a rundown on how the keypad survey is going to work, all of the questions...
Why are these people here? You know, why do they bring technology with them to kind of do this? I've seen in so many projects around Texas for any kind of development, huge amounts of money spent in the planning stage.
Does this grant go to any actual physical development, or is it just planning?
It's planning.
The entire grant?
Yes.
Were you aware that the $3.7 million they were awarded for these grants doesn't go to any kind of actual development? It goes all in their pockets towards planning?
I figured, and I didn't realize it was so much money.
How much is your firm getting from this grant money?
We're subcontracted. I don't even know what the exact number is. Okay. It comes down to all the planners, and then our firm has a fraction of that. So it is a very small fraction of that. True.
No discussion about who's really going to make the decisions and what where the money is going to come from for doing this. And we're kind of moving into the Hunger Games kind of a community situation, right, where we pack ourselves into little communities. And I've seen the maps that the UN and that the sustainable people put out with lots of little pinpoints around the map, lots of open space, and most of us here today live outside this community area, own homes that have, I've had property here for 45 years. So we have property that we like to be able to do with what we want.
Tonight, we've definitely seen a lot of outspoken community members who were not ready to just pick choice A, B, C, or D, but actually wanted to be able to speak out and say what they felt about these planning meetings that are coming here.
Who are these anonymous groups driving this agenda who have the grant money? And you hear them wrapping up the meeting behind us, so we'll bring you more details on this report and future reports as they come along.
They're planning our future with, it doesn't seem like a lot of input from us.
For InfoWars Nightly News, I'm Melissa Melton.
And I'm Aaron Dykes.
And that report is now up at Infowars.com and Prisonplanet.com in low res. It was uploaded to YouTube in low res. I'm going to have it uploaded in high res to Alex Jones HD. So go over to the Alex Jones channel on YouTube, and you see all the new channels we've got that are in HD. I'm going to make sure the 3 reports they do get up in HD. I've wanted them up in HD from the beginning. I mean, these are very important reports. You can send these 3 reports that Melissa Melton and Aaron Dykes did, produced by PrisonPlanet.tv, out to everybody you know, and they'll see what's happening in your town. The UN is taking over, just going around Congress. As Schwarzenegger said 3.5 years ago at Copenhagen, he said, well, if we can't get it done here, we just go to the state level in the cities. Go look it up. It's in the news. I would take it over. Ah! And literally, they decide where you can build and take your property. And I'm sick of it. I mean, listen, I live outside one of these 3 towns they visited in Austin. I mean, this is happening where I live. Okay, this is happening all over the country. We're going to get your property. So I've had enough. Go donate at InfoWarsMoneyBomb.com. In just 6 towns around Austin, they got over $3 million to send in UN minions to go create an operation and rubber stamp that we all want to have our property turned over. Okay? I mean, listen. InfoWars for $5.5 million a year reaches 15 million people a week. No other media can do that. We need your support. InfoWarsMoneyBomb.com. If we raised $1 million, it'd be great. If we hit the goal, really of $500,000, that's awesome. InfoWarsMoneyBomb.com. Donate right now. take action. Get in there, buy the books, the videos, or just make a donation because you know you're literally buying war bonds in the fight for liberty and freedom. All right, I apologize getting him on about 30 minutes late. I'm starting to get later and later with each guest, so it's causing a problem. But he was on Sunday. John Rappoport is here. He's got a bunch of breaking news about CNN manipulation in the debates. Also, more of what we covered Sunday when he was on the Sunday radio show, 4 to 6, where they just say, yeah, we're going to drug all the kids in school. It's just, you know, Ritalin and Prozac's good for you, period. I mean, it's all, well, the craziness is becoming evident. It's going to seed here. And he joins us to get into that and so much more. But let me put you on the spot, John. How important... I don't know your take on this, but I can guess it. How important is Infowars.com, this platform, what we do? Because I don't know of anything else like it at this level that can bring all of these incredible researchers like yourself and others to one place and to be having the effect we're having. And what would you say to people out there who are thinking about donating at InfoWarsMoneyBomb.com?
Reach into your pockets and pull out as much as you possibly can. I've searched all over the web, Alex, and I don't find anything else like it. I mean, and I'm not just saying this, you know, to hype it. I've looked, and I mean, this is replacing major media because of so many varieties of people, researchers, and stories you're breaking every day. I'm on there 3, 4, 5, 10 times a day looking to see what's breaking as I'm doing my research. And the level of it, the presentation of it, the content of it, above all, it's far outweighs anything that I've ever seen. I mean, I got on the web, you know, with No More Fake News 2000, 2001, and there's just nothing like it.
Well, NoMoreFakeNews.com, we carry your great stuff because it's so good, your investigative reports, but that's what we've been able to do with InfoWars is pull it all into one spot and then also get it out to a large audience. So thank you, John, for saying that. I mean, that's why this...
Give major money. Give major money to Money Bomb, InfoWars Money Bomb, because this is the biggest thing I've ever seen in terms of a news outlet that gives you the truth. I mean, the biggest, best by far from every direction. And I got to say something about Agenda 21, that clip you were just playing. I live in Encinitas, California, right? So downtown Encinitas, California has two of the weirdest developments I've ever seen. One is, and they're both mixed use, as they call them, right? They got little stores, and then they got condos up above the stores. It's all squashed together. And one of them they've been building for about 5 years, and the condos, get this, face directly out on the railroad tracks. I mean, God knows what horrendous price they're asking for this. I mean, it's huge to live there, but you are literally hanging over the railroad tracks. The other one, which is 2 blocks away, is another one of these like squashed in outlets where you have little stores on the bottom and condos up top, and they're just trying to sell these things like crazy. I mean, logically, it makes absolutely no sense that anybody would build this crap. It's obviously an agenda to bring everybody close in together, live, shop, don't go anywhere, just go from your condo to the store, back to, you know, and then leave empty space all around it. It's total insanity.
It is. Okay, I'm going to try to give you the floor. In fact, I'm going to be here, but I'm going to step back and turn my mic off or I'll interrupt because I start getting ideas and want to back up what you're saying. Get into the CNN first or get into the drugging of the kids, because for the next 30 minutes ahead of our next guest, when Mike Adams comes in to co-host, well, he's going to be the host for 2 hours. You've got the floor, Mr. Rappoport, here. You're hosting for 30 minutes. It's all yours.
Okay, Alex, thanks. All right, let's start with the CNN story. Just breaking now. Mark Whitaker, who's a managing editor of CNN News, right, has sent an email to all staff, that means all reporters and other staff, saying that Candy Crowley, who's one of their own, who, as you know, moderated this insane debate, second debate between Obama and Romney, did no wrong, did everything right. We don't have to get into the details about the whole Libya thing and the giving more time to Obama than Romney. I mean, you know the details of the story. But the point is that now, all of a sudden, the managing editor of CNN News is, I mean, you can't mistake it. He's directly ordering all reporters on CNN to avoid any criticism of Candy Crowley. because she happens to work at CNN, but more importantly, because they want the Obama side of the story to succeed. This is unbelievable. I talked with a national news reporter who's going to have to remain nameless and said, in all of your years working at your network, this is not CNN, have you ever seen a directive come down like this? The answer was absolutely not. I mean, the implication, I think, was, you know, if they're going to tell you how to report the news, they're going to do it on the QT. This is wide out in the open. I mean, the email was leaked, but it was easy to get. And now it's starting to be reported. I mean, can you believe this? You're working for a news organization, and the boss suddenly writes a puff piece about one of your own reporters and says, don't go after this reporter. No criticism. You've got to just say it was all wonderful and she did a great job. And in this email, you can read it yourself and see, oh, our girl did a fabulous job. It was wonderful in a difficult situation, nerve-wracking, yes. And she performed marvelously. Isn't it a fabulous thing? This is direct censorship of the news internally by the head of CNN over all of its own reporters. Complete insanity. Second big story I talked to Alex about on Sunday here on Infowars.com, and give money to the money bomb. That's why we're here, folks, for 48 hours. This is by far the most ambitious and successful truth news outlet anywhere in the world, Infowars. It staggers me every day to see how they do it, with how much professionalism and how much content and how many stories they're breaking all day long. I mean, if the New York Times could do a third of this, of course they wouldn't. They would actually not be in the financial hole they're in. But that's another story. Okay, so, in fact, the New York Times ran this article about 10 days ago. Didn't really understand what they were talking about in the article. I mean, this happens so often with mainstream media outlets. They run the story, they reveal some incredible facts, and then they just skirt away from actually admitting the implications. Well, two psychiatrists are leading up the charge to drug school children in poverty-stricken inner-city areas around the United States, to drug them with Adderall and other ADHD drugs. These are stimulants, speed-type drugs, have horrendous side effects, and they want to do this, and they're doing it already, without even making a diagnosis of ADHD in many cases, or just fabricating a diagnosis as an excuse to drug the kids for, get this, social justice. This is the new watchword. You see, we've got to put these kids from inner cities on a par with kids from wealthier families in school. We've got to increase their school performance, and so the only way to do this is to give them speed. Well, we call it Adderall, but that's what it is. It's an amphetamine-type drug. We've got to drug as many of these kids as possible so their school performance increases. Well, as I wrote in my article about that, first of all, that's a total lie, because even the American Psychiatric Association admits that in the long term, these drugs do not improve school performance, so that's complete crap. Complete and utter crap. Secondly, the drugs have intense and horrific side effects. I printed a whole list of those, including psychotic episodes, hallucinations, aggressive, violent behavior, etc., etc., etc. So what's happening here is very much akin to what happened in South Central Los Angeles many years ago, when top investigative reporter Gary Webb broke the story in the San Jose Mercury about the importation by the CIA of crack cocaine into South Central Los Angeles, which helped to destroy that entire community. This was in order to, quote, fund the Contras who were at war in Nicaragua at the time. Well, this is a very parallel operation to that. Except in this case, we're talking about pharmaceutical drugs that deliver horrendous effects, including atrophy of the brain itself. Shrinkage of the brain is what happens when you give a kid, and that's what they're dealing with here, these ADHD speed drugs. So this is a form of torture. Also, in the inner cities, look at the volatile mix that you already have there. Complete wrecked poverty, no jobs, no prospects, no hope, no schools to speak of. Add them all up, including already violent behavior breaking out to a greater degree in a number of inner cities in America. And now add to that gasoline mixture, the lit match of these drugs which cause violent, aggressive behavior. Adderall, Ritalin, and other ADHD drugs. And so what we're looking at here is this whole baloney about doing this to equal out school performance for social justice is absolute insanity. It's a cover story, in fact. And what's happening under the cover story is this is yet one more assault to try to increase the level of violence and criminal activity, including homicide, in inner cities by flooding them with all of these high-powered, horrendous drugs like Adderall, Ritalin, and other speed-type drugs. If that weren't enough, add to this. But before I give you this piece of the story, again, the reason I'm here today, the reason all these people are here today contributing to this 48-hour marathon, and I know many of the people who are reporters, investigators, and so on, is so that you donate money to InfoWars for the money bomb. Do it. Reach deep into your pockets because, above all, this media outlet, which is completely independent, is having more of an enormous effect on public perception and how they now view reality and the news and what's really happening in the world than any other media outlet. I'm talking about truth in content, the real truth, stories behind the stories. I'm very serious about this. InfoWars is about to break out up onto another level. I know what the plan is. You've heard about it from Alex. They already have gigantic coverage around the world, and it's only going to increase. They are collecting all sorts of independent researchers and reporters from around the web who have been working like myself for a number of years, breaking stories, revealing the truth, whether it's medical truth, political truth, conspiracy truth. Yes, conspiracies are real. Ultimately, all about the globalist takeover of the planet. You're getting breaking stories like this every day. And to put this up on yet an even higher level at InfoWars requires mucho money. So give some to the money bomb, InfoWars money bomb. Okay, this is John Rappoport taking up the rest of this half hour for Alex and InfoWars with stories that you haven't heard or understood correctly in the mainstream press. So we've got these fantastically toxic and destructive and brain-shrinking and violence-causing ADHD drugs like Ritalin and Adderall being flooded into inner cities in America. But it even gets worse because these drugs are always gateways. They're real gateways into worse drugs like the antidepressants. Because what do you think happens to a kid or anybody when they take enough speed for a long enough time? They get depressed. It's called a speed crash. I mean, you don't need technical language to understand this. This is what is happening all around us. These kids go into a heavy funk. They don't want to do anything. They don't want to go outside. They just want to sleep. Why? Because these drugs like Adderall are robbing the brain of nutrients and putting them into a state of depression. So they go back to the doctor, the psychiatrist, and naturally what happens? He says, well, what we have here is an entirely new condition, completely unrelated to any of the drugs that I've been prescribing. It's called clinical depression, and for this I have to prescribe Prozac, Zoloft, Paxil. That's what he does. Now, those drugs cause manic behavior. They also cause aggressive, violent, homicidal behavior. at least one of the shooters at Columbine, if you remember that massacre in 1999, Eric Harris, was on one of these antidepressants called Luvox. Grandiose plans to destroy large numbers of people. So now you've got these kids not only on violence-causing ADHD drugs, but now on violence-causing antidepressants, SSRIs they're called, Prozac, Paxil, Zoloft. And now what happens? Among other things, the kid is going up and down and up and down, manic state and down and up and down, out of control completely, back to the doctor, back to the shrink. And the shrink says, well, guess what? Again, entirely unrelated to any of these drugs. Entirely unrelated. But the emergence of a new condition that we now really understand a great deal more about. It's called bipolar, or used to be called manic depression. And that's the problem with your child. So now we have to give them lithium, or we have to give them valproate. Well, these drugs can cause just fatal heart attacks and strokes, among other things, like massive intracranial pressure and so on. Do you see the road that these children are being led down? Aside from the increase of violence in the environment in the inner cities, which is the main covert op here, just the destruction of human life through these pharmaceutical drugs, while the drug companies, of course, riding high and making profits. You know, there have been stories breaking in the press over the last 3-4 months about how many fines these companies have had to pay. Add them all up, I don't know what it is now, 10, 12 billion, whatever, in just the last few months. Big companies like Glaxo and Pfizer and so forth. Well, just in case you're wondering, this is a drop in the bucket. In fact, in one of these situations, the company made $27 billion off of the 3 drugs for which they were fined $9 billion, or $3 billion it was actually. Do you see? They made 27, they paid out 3. They already had the money in a slush fund ready to pay it out because they're just doing risk-cost analysis. How many people did we destroy? How many lawsuits could we incur? How many fines from the federal government? Okay, add it up, boys. All right, let's see. And what's our profit again on these drugs? Oh, well, no problem. What do we care? What do we care how many lives it steals, how many brains it destroys, how much violence it creates? We're the pharmaceutical kings. We don't care at all. All we care is that we have a nice, healthy margin whereby we can pay the fines and we're still home free and we're making big-time profits. Don't talk to us about anything else. And notice, interestingly, I mean, these people are guilty of murder. This is murder, okay, we're talking about. And the infliction of massive brain damage in large numbers of people. And yet, nobody is prosecuted. Isn't that magical? Nobody is prosecuted for criminal acts like negligent homicide, for example, accessory to murder, second degree, first degree murder. That's the one I would choose if I were the Attorney General. All that has to happen is the order goes out to the Attorney General, and he decides, okay, it's time, folks. We're going to arrest these suckers, the CEOs of these major pharmaceutical companies, on charges of accessory to murder, negligent homicide, first-degree murder, because that's an accurate picture of what they're doing. They're well aware of everything I've been saying here in the last 20 minutes. This is no mystery to them. They know the effects that their drugs are having. And they know that they've got the FDA in their pocket and they can get a new drug approved anytime they want to. This is all a gigantic circle of death is what it is. And that is what is happening, my friends. And the inner city story that I'm talking about here now is just simply one aspect of it, one simple aspect of it. Now you're going to see released in 2013 what they call the DSM-5. What is that? It's the new Bible of psychiatry, which is going to list even more than the already 297 bogus, non-existent mental disorders that have never been validated by science. It'll go well over 300, and that means more drugs, more diagnoses. This country is being eaten out from the inside by these pharmaceutical drugs. It's chemical warfare against the population. That's what we're looking at here. That's exactly what we're looking at here. And I must say very happily, as a longtime reporter for 30 years, just speaking for myself, John Rappoport, I am getting this information out in a way that I never imagined or dreamed possible through exactly what you're listening to now. Infowars.com, Prisonplanet. They're doing this money bomb, Infowars money bomb, to get more of this kind of information out. More of not only the medical information, political, medical, death-dealing information that I've been discussing with you in the last 15, 20 minutes, but also what's happening around the world. Who else was constantly, I mean, day in and day out, several times a day, breaking the story about the U.S. and NATO using proxies in the Middle East and in parts of Africa to wage war and destabilize and destroy those societies? I mean, this is a gigantic ongoing story. And where have you seen it more deeply exposed through so many different vectors and reporters and researchers in exactly the way it should be than in Infowars.com, just to give you another example. I've long held that in order to make a story fly and have legs and fly, yes, with the public, a media outlet has to pound on it over and over and over and over again. That's the way, from different angles, to get the story out there. And then people come out of the woodwork confessing their crimes. People say, yes, I was part of this. This is what happened with Watergate, which was a minor crime compared to what we're talking about here. And so what you're seeing on Infowars with just this story about using terrorists, paying terrorists and calling them legitimate rebel armies and destabilizing societies all over the Middle East, this story was lifted and carried and explored and pounded on and exposed and exploded on Infowars day after day after day after day in different countries from different sources with different angles in a truly astonishing way. The story would have never gotten the play that it did were it not for Infowars. And that's what Infowars is doing for many, many, many stories. And as a 30-year veteran reporter, I can only offer my thanks and appreciation to Alex and all the crew there for giving me the chance to expose many of these horrendous medical stories. So now I think you understand a little bit more about the money bomb, about what's actually happening, okay? Where you really get the flavor of where Infowars is actually going, because I can tell you from being a reporter, I know where it's going. It's going up onto a level where it's already superseding by the numbers many, many, many major media outlets on the web. But this is really only, I would say, phase 2 of the Infowars operation. Phase 1 was just getting established. Phase 2 was taking it to where it is now. And phase 3 is going to make it a global news outlet that will put some, I'm biting my tongue because all manner of insults are ready to fly out, some little potato head operation like CNN in its back pocket, never to be seen again, hopefully, never to be utilized, because Infowars will truly have the kind of media platforms that will give it instant access to stories all over the planet. And the explosion that's already been occurring there is just going to continue.
John, you were just absolutely kicking butt. Mike Adams is coming in to do 2 hours, but he was asking, after this little 6-minute piece, special report we're going to air as a break, if you'd come and spend 15 minutes with him when he comes back.
Absolutely, Alex. Anything I can do to help.
Well, listen, I mean, I got Sean to cover all the news and stuff, but I mean, wow, I released a monster once I asked you to talk about Infowars. I'm really flattered by the points you've made. What you're talking about is our goal, and you know what? We're going to go for it or die trying, because things are so serious. They're so horrible. I get so angry hearing the news saying it's the law. you know, give your kids shots. It's the law. I mean, this authoritarianism is moving so quick that I've decided to stay here in the U.S. because this is a new world order, but we're right in the center of it. And so it's really life and death. It's like, wow, we better kick the butt of the new world order or there's no future. I mean, you know, that's the issue. They now admit, mainstream news today, it's a global depression. They now admit all of this is unfolding. I mean, our credibility, your credibility, Mike Adams' credibility, it's never been higher. So instead of just thinking small and only reaching millions of people a week, we want to reach even more. And we are, it's hard to believe, reaching one way or another about 15 million a week. We need to increase that. But, you know, the weird thing is mainstream media has all these errors. They can get huge amounts of money with smaller audiences. They really are the mouse that roars, the Emperor's New Clothes, the Wizard of Oz, Man Behind the Curtain. We're already gigantic, but we need people to support the sponsors, spread the word, and go to InfoWarsMoneyBomb.com and donate. And more importantly, spread the word about InfoWarsMoneyBomb.com, because we've got 3 hours or so left in this marathon transmission, and it can go so viral. It's already starting to happen. Twittering and Facebooking, InfoWarsMoneyBomb.com. Tell people, 48-hour special broadcast exposing the globalists now. We'll be right back with John Rappoport and Mike Adams, who's going to be hosting the show. Then I'm back in a couple hours. Stay with us, folks. If you are receiving this transmission, you are the resistance. It's the 2012 InfoWarsMoneyBomb.com special transmission. We'll be right back with more news, special guest, and your calls.
We're not comparing EPA to the Nazis, but these rules are so sacrosanct because they come from the experience with the Nazis. They come from the experience with the Tuskegee syphilis experiments.
Welcome back. I'm David Knight. If you tuned in last night, you know that we talked about some human testing that the EPA is conducting. And we've got in the studio tonight Steve Malloy. He runs the website junkscience.com. He is a biostatistician, and he's working with the ATI Environmental Law Center. Steve, we've got a new court decision, and but before we get into that, briefly tell them what the EPA is doing that you're trying to stop.
Okay. There's an air pollutant. It's called PM 2.5. For the last 10 years or so, EPA has been telling the public about how deadly this pollutant is. EPA says there's no safe exposure to PM 2.5. EPA says that any exposure can kill you, and any exposure can kill you within hours or days of you inhaling it.
Particulate matter or soot causes premature deaths. It doesn't make you sick. It's directly causal to dying sooner than you should. So
I found out about a year ago that EPA has been conducting these human experiments with PM 2.5, and so I filed several Freedom of Information Act requests, and it listed a bunch of data, and out of all that data, thousands of pages of documents, I discovered that not only is EPA testing this deadly PM 2.5 on people, but they're lying to them about the effects.
Now, this court decision that came up yesterday, tell us a little bit about that. That was a temporary restraining order, right?
Well, we have filed a lawsuit to get all this stopped because this violates every rule, regulation, ethical standard set since World War II governing the protection of human subjects involved in scientific experiments. In addition to our lawsuit to get all this stopped, we filed an emergency motion for a temporary restraining order yesterday to get the ongoing trial stopped, because right now there is a trial where EPA is exposing people to PM 2.5 and lying to them about it. Just to cut to the chase, the judge ruled for EPA saying that, well, it doesn't appear there's subject matter jurisdiction, but the remarkable thing about this is that here's a federal court who hears that EPA exposing people to this deadly substance, lying to them about it, and we're worried about, the Marcus of Queensberry jurisdiction rules.
Yeah.
It's kind of crazy.
Now, in the jurisdiction, was he saying that, this isn't something like you were in the wrong geographical area or something like that? When I got I got something here from David Schneier, and who's your counsel, and he said that Judge Tringa, is that how you pronounce his name? Tringo, was uncomfortable with EPA's claim that there is no situation in which a court could review their human experimentation on the basis that research is not a final agency action. So that was the basis on which you say you didn't have jurisdiction, right? Was that it wasn't, I mean, when it's not a final agency action, is he saying it's not final regulatory action? Is he saying that no court can oversee whatever EPA is doing on experimentation? Was that what he was saying?
Well, he was uncertain at least, and so we have to go back and do some more homework and figure out how that can be. You know, courts are listening to hearing people complain about regulations that have been issued, you know, final agency actions. Mm-hmm. This is not really a regulation, yet it's still agency action, and it's pretty final. You know, it's pretty final for you.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, when I saw this, it reminded me, you know, you talked about violating codes that go back to World War II. Right. And you've talked at great length on videos, other videos about specific ways in which this has violated the Nuremberg codes, which were enacted as a result of medical experimentations by the Nazis. And now we have, you know, the Nuremberg trials, they didn't just try medical doctors, they also tried judges who didn't stop things, right? I mean, the whole movie...
They put judges on trial, too.
Yeah, the whole movie, Judgment at Nuremberg, was about the judges going on trial. It wasn't about trying Joseph Mengele, the people who had done things. It was about actually trying the judge who had done this. And so now we've got an American judge. So now we have an American judge saying that even when these people even when the EPA has violated at least half of the Nuremberg Code, as well as other EPA rules, as well as medical ethical rules that are in place, that he shouldn't do anything about it. That he doesn't.
Yeah, David, I've got to say I was astounded.
Yeah.
Because we laid out a good case of what EPA is doing is, I don't care how you slice it, it's illegal. It's a crime. You can't lie to people about exposing them.
And when the government doesn't exercise any accountability over its agents, at some point, somebody has got to hold some of these actors accountable for what they're doing when they do criminal things and when they violate their own rules and regulations.
You can tell me that, you know, there are these rules under which EPA has to act, but nobody can enforce them?
Right, right. Exactly. Yeah, that's really crazy. Well, Steve, thank you so much for talking to us tonight. We're going to want to keep touch with you and find out how this goes, and maybe we can stop human experimentation here right in America. Well, that's it. I guess the EPA can do whatever they want as long as they call it an experiment. Thanks for tuning in tonight. That's the Nightly News. I'm David Knight.
Live from Austin, Texas, broadcasting worldwide, it's Alex Jones.
It's a reliable source of information. 50,000 unstoppable watts.
All right, welcome listeners and viewers. Welcome back to the InfoWars Money Bomb. This is Mike Adams, the Health Ranger, hosting with you today. Thanks for joining us. I'm going to be your host here with John Rappoport, especially here for a few minutes. We're going to chat about vaccines and some other issues, and I'll be here for the next 2 hours or so, bringing you some breaking news on GMOs and many other areas. And I'd also like to take some calls, too, so get a discussion going in some interesting areas. First of all, I know John is with us still on video, and I've got some questions for John Rappoport, and thank you, John, for staying with us. But first of all, I just want to say thank you to the InfoWars team and crew for all that you do, and thank you for the invite for me to be here today, bringing more information to all the listeners and viewers out there who are interested in freedom and liberty. And if you want to help support that liberty, of course, donate at InfoWarsMoneyBomb.com. And I'll share with you some things that I'm even doing behind the scenes to help support InfoWars. Talk about that in the next hour. But this is the most important new media organization anywhere. This is it. And this is what's going to be left remaining when all the old media, the dinosaur media, collapses, either due to financial problems or just lack of credibility. They're just going to implode because, well, they don't report the truth. So you can't really stay in business very long if you're not reporting the truth. In any case, I want to bring in John Rappoport, who has, of course, been hosting here, or has been the key guest here for the last hour or so. John, can you hear me? Are you with us?
Yeah, I am.
All right.
Hi, Mike. How you doing?
Awesome, John. I'm doing great. It's good to be with you here on the InfoWars Money Bomb. Wow, what a segment. You just talked about InfoWars and why it's important. Big picture, what's on your mind these days other than this money bomb?
Well, it ties in so closely with things that I've been writing about and researching for years and years. And I know you know this, Mike. You know, people say, well, everybody's hypnotized by the media. Yes. Okay, we got these major media outlets, and they're beaming the same stories into your mind day in and day out, month, year after year, decade. Sure, everybody's hypnotized. Okay. And now, all of a sudden, we're seeing something that really counteracts that.
Yeah.
You know, here comes InfoWars along, right? Okay, now they're getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. Only the difference is that they're telling the truth.
Yeah, and I love how InfoWars works with people like you and I as a team. You know, when I come in here and I talk to Alex and I talk to the crew, there has never been any sense of competition or territory. It's always been a sense of we're all pulling in the same direction. Let's help each other in the best way that we can. And I feel that sense from you as well, John, with all that you do. And when you come on InfoWars, when you come on my show, when you write for Natural News, I mean, we're all pulling in the same direction. It's a beautiful thing.
It is a beautiful thing. And so naturally what's happening now, you know, the counter theorem is coming true. Yes, if you have major media lying to people all the time, yes, they will become hypnotized. But if you have a new major medium that isn't lying and is reaching millions and maybe even hundreds of millions and billions of people, who knows, like InfoWars, then you're going to get people waking up. And when you have multitudes of people waking up, nobody can predict the outcome of that. I mean, that's not an experience that we're familiar with, see? It's like, yeah, we all know what happens when you put people to sleep for 15, 20, 30 years through the major media. Yeah, we know about that. But the thing we don't know is what's going to happen when this money bomb at InfoWars collects $1 million and moves up onto another platform, and they're on television stations all over the world, and then you've got millions more people waking up at the same time to the truth and to how much they've been lied to. We don't have any precedent really for that to say, you know, but the one thing we do know is the world is never going to be the same, that's for sure.
You know, and the worse the situation gets in the world, the global debt collapse, you know, fiat currency blowout, war in the Middle East, you name it, GMO, genetic pollution, agricultural catastrophe, runaway replication of bad genes in the crops, for example. The worse things get, the more people turn to what used to be called the alternative media, you know, InfoWars, nomorefakenews.com, your website, Natural News, other sources like that, Drudge, and so on. People like G. Edward Griffin, who deserves, you know, big kudos for his lifetime of effort in this whole area. But if you think about it, we all used to be called the alternative media. We're not alternative anymore. Really, we are the new mainstream media, the only media that is actually attempting to tell the truth every time. Now, we don't get it 100% right. Sometimes we make mistakes and we correct them. But the old dinosaur media is trying to lie to you. That's their game plan. Whereas our game plan and your game plan, John, is to try to tell the truth as much as possible.
That's a vital distinction, I think. They're trying to lie. In other words, you know, we're not going to be able to raise your salary this year as a VP at CNN because although you tried to lie every day, it didn't work out as well as we hoped. I mean, your lying quotient was not as high as we wanted it to be.
The lying
we're going to have to
like
leave your salary at the same level. I mean, that's basically what we're dealing with here, you know? I go on Natural News. I mean, the stories, I'd like to hear the latest on the GMO because every time I go to Natural News and then also InfoWars, it just blows my mind. So
well, let me share. Let me give you a little hint of what's coming up. Where did I put that paper? All of Alex's news is here too, and oh, here we go. So this is just a hint of it, but we've got a guest coming on next hour who will break this down in more detail. But here's the thing. You know, the GMO labeling campaign, the Proposition 37 in California, it turns out the No on 37 campaign that's been funded by Monsanto, DuPont, all the chemical companies, you know, PepsiCo, Coca-Cola, and so on, they've been caught breaking the law, inventing fake FDA quotes and mailing those out with an FDA seal on it.
Wow.
This is a violation of federal law.
Wow.
And they're just lying. And
wow.
Yeah, so the No on 37 campaign is being run by people engaged in criminality. That's the story.
Well, I'm definitely going to stay tuned to hear that and your guest, because this is something I've been tracking for a long time. I started something in 1996 called the Great Boycott, because I thought, okay, it's time to boycott 8 of the biggest horrendous corporations in the world. So let's see who they would be, you know. And the more that I narrowed it down, okay, chemical companies, because they're really doing some horrendous things. But wait, all of these companies are not only chemical companies, they're also pharmaceutical companies. Wow.
And pesticide companies.
And pesticide companies. Wow. So they poison you, then they treat you with drugs. Okay. And then, lo and behold, they're also genetic engineering companies. Yeah. This was 96. I mean, Bayer, Hecht, DuPont, Dow, Monsanto, at the time it was called Rhone-Poulenc in France, Imperial Chemical Industries in England. Wow, they're all, you know, they're killing everybody.
Oh yeah.
The agenda.
And it's clearly by design, and it is all the same corporations. John, I got something specific I want to ask you about, and we brought up a page, if you could bring it up, guys, from the CDC's website, cdc.gov, the vaccine additives page admits, this is the CDC's own website, admits, scroll down a little bit, guys, until you get to aluminum. Right there, that's it. It admits these additives are in vaccines today. And here they are, John, and then I want your comments on this. Here they are. Aluminum, which of course causes Alzheimer's, dementia, and other things, if it's in high enough quantities and in the wrong form, of course. Antibiotics, which cause superbugs, egg protein, I'm not as concerned about that. Formaldehyde, though, a potent neurotoxic chemical. Formaldehyde in the vaccines. MSG, monosodium glutamate, it's in the vaccines, all right? It's not just in your food where it gives you migraines. It's in the vaccines where you're shooting up with MSG. And then thimerosal, a mercury-based preservative that we know causes neurological damage, probably is part of the reason that vaccines cause autism, comas, seizures, and sometimes death. So here we go, John. The CDC says on its own website these ingredients are still used in vaccines, and yet doctors and pharmacists just lie to everybody and say there's no mercury, these are perfectly safe. What are your thoughts on that deception, John?
Well, it goes along with what we were just saying, I think, Mike. You know, it's how many people can we lie to and how many lives can we destroy? Because, you know, I used to say, okay, they're crazy, they're incompetent, they're this, that was in the old days. And then I said, hey, I woke up one day and said, they know what I know. You know, therefore, if they keep doing what they're doing, they have to be doing it on purpose. You can't just let people off the hook year after year. Yeah, boys, okay, now here's what we want to do. We want to go around to all the schools, and we want to inject kids with the following substances: aluminum, formaldehyde, throw in some antibiotics there, and some MSG and mercury, and, you know, let's do this. So let's get rolling, and let's put on a big PR campaign also to explain why we have to do this and why they all have to take the shots. You know, that's essentially what they're doing.
Yeah.
These, of course, they're poisons, yes, and they're necessary poisons, and we have to do this. And yes, some kids will die, other kids will become brain damaged and never recover. We can call that autism or whatever we want to call it, but it's basically, you know, poisoning. We're poisoning people.
Well,
and that's what they're doing.
That's absolutely true. The contradiction that comes to mind on this is in the minds of those people. Think about people who are into healthy eating, all right, sort of just health conscious, natural health people, holistic people, vegans, and so on, they wouldn't even touch, let's say, a veggie burger patty from a store if it had MSG in it. They wouldn't touch chlorella, a green microalgae superfood, if it had high levels of aluminum in it. They wouldn't touch fish if it had high level of mercury in it. They wouldn't eat anything with formaldehyde in it. They wouldn't touch those substances, and yet many of those very same people, John, will line up to be injected with that stuff. I mean, injected with it. They wouldn't eat it. They wouldn't buy it. They wouldn't feed it to their kid, and they shoot up with that stuff. How insane is that?
Yeah,
I mean, think about it.
It's the height of insanity. You're absolutely right. I mean, you'll see someone, I've seen people in Chinese restaurants, right, that will walk in there wearing a mask, you know, like some environmental mask that they wear whenever they go out of the house. And they'll get into 25-minute discussions about the possibility that there might be some MSG in the takeout order that they're ordering while you're waiting to put in your, you know, and yet at the same time, as soon as the flu season comes, that same person will take off their mask and go in the doctor's office and get shot up with a flu vaccine, right?
Well, yeah.
Containing all of this crap.
And
I mean, and then the other thing, you know, and I have to hand it to you and to Alex, InfoWars, on this. We've turned a corner on this where we're no longer willing to say, these people that are doing this to everybody, you know, they just don't get it. They're stupid, or they're incompetent, or they don't see the truth, or they're just, you know, too cerebral. They've been indoctrinated themselves in college and medical. You know, all of these excuses that have been laid on for years and years and years and years. And we've reached the point now where, you know, we just call them killers.
Yeah, well, that's the accurate term. That's what you call people who kill other people. Killers.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think, I mean, and we've turned a corner on this. That's another reason why I love InfoWars and Natural News both, because nobody's mincing any words on this.
Yeah,
if you do this for 20 years to people and, you know, they're dropping like flies, you're called a killer. And if nobody prosecutes you, then they become an accessory to murder.
Absolutely. And by the way, let me give out the 1-800 number. It's actually an 888 number for those who want to support InfoWars during this money bomb and the excellent reporting that InfoWars does on vaccines. The number is 888-253-3139. Again, the number is 888-253-3139, or just go to InfoWarsMoneyBomb.com and you can donate there. And remember, InfoWars is one of the key media organizations that is covering vaccines and telling the truth on vaccines and having guests on, like John Rappoport, who also tell the truth about vaccines. You're not going to get the truth about vaccines from you know, regular mainstream news. You're not going to get it from a local doctor typically, or a pharmacist, and certainly not a health authority, you know, the FDA. Even I was even shocked, John, that the CDC admitted on their website that the vaccines still contain MSG and formaldehyde and mercury and aluminum. I was shocked.
It is astounding. It's right out in the open, you know. They're completely schizophrenic. They say, yes, here are the ingredients. It's just like the FDA admits on their own website that 100,000 people die every year in the United States as a result of ingesting pharmaceutical drugs. It's on the FDA's own website.
Yeah,
and
it
yet,
is.
Every one of those drugs is approved as safe and effective by the FDA, but they don't mention that part.
No, of course not.
You know.
All right, and here, check out this. Here's another contradiction, John. I was thinking about this as I was driving in today. This just occurred to me, and I'm going to do a story on this for sure. But think about this. Everybody is in favor of Proposition 37, GMO labeling, virtually everybody, but not Monsanto people, of course. But virtually everybody who's still rational, let's say, is in favor of that. And why? They want to know what they're putting into their bodies, right? They want to know what's in the product they're ingesting. So why don't these people demand labeling on vaccines of what's in the vaccine? So, I mean, because injecting something is orders of magnitude more dangerous to your body, especially if it's something like mercury or formaldehyde. That is deadly. Why wouldn't you demand labeling vaccines? People take vaccine shots without ever reading a label. There's no ingredients list. The pharmacist doesn't tell you, oh, this has formaldehyde and this has aluminum and this has MSG. They never tell you that. There is no labeling of vaccines.
Absolutely right. You go to the doctor's office, or now you can go to a drugstore and have somebody shoot you up. And you don't say, well, wait a minute, I'd like to read the label. No, we don't have time for that. Next, whatever. That's right. You're absolutely right. And in case anybody listening here is missing the point, when you inject something into the body, you automatically bypass all manner of layers of protection that the body naturally puts up against foreign invaders.
Thank you. Yes, I neglected to mention that.
Part of the immune system. So when you inject something directly into the body, all of a sudden now you have, skirted past all those immune defenses of the body.
Oh, yeah.
And now you're penetrating very deep, and the effects can be, as we see in little babies getting vaccinated that are brain damaged for the rest of their lives, it can be instantaneous, or it can take 48 hours, or it can take a month. But it's just horrendous.
But and think about it. Think about it. When you inject a vaccine, that's going directly into your bloodstream. And from your bloodstream, your blood obviously circulates to your brain, to your nervous system, obviously. So whatever's in your blood goes into your brain if it passes through the blood-brain barrier, right? And mercury does. So there you go. You inject mercury, that goes right to your blood. Your heart pumps it to your brain, and your brain absorbs it, and the mercury is like getting a heavy metal lobotomy. So these vaccines... Now, here's the other interesting thing, John. I want your comment on this. And can you stay another, 5 minutes or so? Is that cool?
Sure, absolutely.
All right. So I just get energized talking to you about vaccines. But the issue is, even if people think that the vaccine so-called science is legitimate, let's say that they believe in that whole idea that vaccines are a rehearsal for the body, where the body sees a weakened virus and then it builds antibodies. Now, I know you've completely demolished that nonsense fairy tale, but suppose people believe that. Even if you believe that, why wouldn't you want a clean vaccine that has no mercury, no MSG, no formaldehyde, no aluminum? Why wouldn't you want that? That's the question.
That's right. And this is what people are waking up to. It's like, how could I have been so stupid as to not ask what was in it, and then when I see what's in it, to reject it automatically? The doctor tells me, well, it's not a problem. It's never been a problem, never will be a problem. Let me just roll up your sleeve. Wait a minute. Let me just read this list, and you tell me, Doc, is there aluminum or formaldehyde or antibiotics or MSG or mercury in this vaccine? Well, yes, but I mean, they're necessary in order to preserve it. Hold it, Doc. Would you mind if I took the needle and shot you up instead and gave you all of the vaccines that a kid takes, 55 shots in the first 15 months? Would you submit to that with no problem at all? Because I think somebody's got to be a guinea pig around here. It may as well be you, since you say this is all very safe. I mean, this is the kind of hypnotism that people are waking up from it. Just as you say, Mike, it's totally insane.
It's completely insane. And the thing that really is frustrating to those of us who are truth tellers is to see the media just flat out lying about it. Oh, vaccines are safe. Don't be afraid of those wild rumors of side effects. They're wild rumors. There's nothing ever harmful in any vaccine. I mean, that's their blanket statement. And the pharmacists go along with it, and the doctors go along with it. It's a lie. It's the greatest lie in the history of medicine.
I would say so, because that's the cornerstone of medicine.
Yeah.
They feel that they can fall. If everything else fails, they can always fall back on this thing. The vaccine and how many lives we saved. And, of course, when you start to look at that, you see the truth. But people should know out there, the InfoWars audience, that Bill Gates has already granted money to research, to track down every website on the Internet that is, quote, anti-vaccine, and to begin to take countermeasures, serious countermeasures, to stop all of this information from spreading out, all these lies, contradicting the truth of the wonderful vaccines.
Oh, we've already seen that.
This is a campaign. This is underway, and it's going to increase.
We're attacked constantly.
Yeah, absolutely. And that proves the point. because there have been numerous occasions when I've said and other people have said, hey, let's have a debate. I'll rent a hall in Los Angeles. I'll guarantee you I'll get 5,000 people there. And you bring your scientists and I'll bring mine. And let's debate the whole issue of vaccines, not little sound bites, but a 4 or 5 hour debate. And we'll do it live streaming and video it for the world for free to see. And then people can make up their own minds.
Well, no, but this is the new system. They don't want to debate anything on the facts, whether it's vaccines, whether it's GMO, whether it's even the national debt. I mean, look at Romney and Obama on stage. Neither one of them actually debating the economic reality in which America finds itself. They're just showmen, peacocking around to look the best and to look the most presidential without actually covering anything that matters. And by the way, real quick, we're going to go to break here in just a minute. During the break, we're going to play the video report featuring Aaron Dykes and Melissa Melton, where they interviewed a Whole Foods executive admitting that Whole Foods sells unlabeled GMOs. So that's coming up during the break. Wow. And we're going to continue with you here, John. Right. But they were telling me, but everybody sells unlabeled GMOs, so it must be okay. Oh, hey, we're out of time already, John.
Okay, Mike.
It's good to chat with you.
Yeah, great to talk to you. Always, Mike.
You too. Have a good day. And stay tuned and listen to the Prop 37 news we have coming up. And here comes the video report right now. We'll be right back after that with more news, as well as some of your calls. Stay with us here on the InfoWars Money Bomb. We'll be right back.
I'm Melissa Melton reporting for InfoWars Nightly News. We're here at a Whole Foods grocery store where we're trying to find out if people know about genetically modified food, about the dangers of that, and if they realize that Whole Foods is actually selling unlabeled genetically modified foods here at the store. Do you mind if I ask you a few questions?
I don't have time.
Oh, okay.
I don't really even know what GMO is, to be honest with you.
Have you ever heard of genetically modified food?
Not much.
GMO, have you heard of that?
I've heard of that regarding corn.
Have you heard of GMO?
Absolutely.
Are you concerned about it?
Absolutely.
Do you support the labeling initiative?
Absolutely.
Would you be surprised if I told you that Whole Foods is selling unlabeled genetically modified organisms?
Yes.
Aaron Dykes here for Infowars.com. We're here to talk to members of the public today to find out if they're aware of GMO dangers and if they know what's inside this Whole Foods store. We have their latest press release, which admits that they do sell ingredients that include genetically modified foods. Have you heard about the recent study where they fed GM corn to rats and they developed tumors?
Yes, I have.
Are you shopping here partly to avoid genetically modified foods?
Yes. Yes. I haven't had a problem with genetically modified foods, and no, that wouldn't be why I was coming to Whole Foods.
So now, do they sell it or they don't sell it?
This Whole Foods truck says, "What's cooking?" And unfortunately, to the dismay of most people, according to this press release they just put out, it's GMO, genetically modified organisms. Do you know what you're eating? Were you aware that Whole Foods actually sells unlabeled GMOs?
I was not.
And we're surprised about that?
I think a lot of people probably are. Are you familiar with genetically modified food?
Well, I've heard of it.
Have you heard they've done studies recently that have shown that rats that are fed exclusive diets of genetically modified food actually get cancer, get tumors?
That makes sense. You go messing around with nature, some weird things are going to happen. That's probably just the beginning of it.
Probably. Do you ever shop at Whole Foods?
You mean whole paycheck?
Do you ever shop at Whole Foods here?
Yeah, I work there.
Are you familiar that Whole Foods put out a press release saying there's genetically modified organisms being sold in the store?
No, I wasn't aware of that.
While talking to the public, we were unknowingly approached by Whole Foods media relations spokesperson, Libba Letton.
And as an employee of Whole Foods, do you find it concerning that Whole Foods has admitted in their press release that they're selling unlabeled genetically modified organisms?
No, I think that unless a store is all organic, every store in the country sells unlabeled genetically modified.
Well, do you think that it's fair to say that most people who come here come in search of organic whole foods and they think that what they're buying is probably not genetically modified, and so to have unlabeled GMO is kind of against that whole advertisement?
I don't know what people think. I think they come here for organic food. I think they come here for healthy food. And again, I think the issue of people not knowing how pervasive GMOs are is a problem. But I don't think that Whole Foods does anything to try and make people think that we don't have food with GMOs in them.
You don't?
You see behind me, they have the slogan on this new store location, nothing artificial ever. However, that's not the case, which is why we also have to now put the spotlight on Whole Foods.
Now I think we're very clear about marking which foods are non-GMO.
Only later did we discover in research that Libba also represented Whole Foods investor relations and food safety.
90% of the corn and canola and cottonseed and soy in this country is actually genetically modified through companies like Monsanto and DuPont. And the derivatives of that are put into the food. And Whole Foods, you know, they market themselves as a whole food organization, and yet a lot of the stuff in here has unlabeled genetically modified. So
where would you get food where would you buy the food that's not genetically
Well, that's the question.
Would it be surprising to you to find out that Whole Foods also sells GMOs?
No, I'm aware of that.
If I have the facts and if they're labeled, then that's fair, I'm educated. If they're not labeled, then I'm concerned. GMOs are one of the banes of our society right now, of our globe.
Well, I'm not really opposed to it. I mean, I think that most genetically modified food out there is actually safe and tested. A lot of it's going under FDA review. As long as the science is sound, I'm okay with it.
What does the FDA say about this?
Well, the FDA is kind of hard to gauge because Obama put Michael Taylor in, who was actually a Monsanto lobbyist for years and years, and now he's the food safety czar. So.
Well, isn't that politics as usual, huh?
If it is linked to cancer, I'd certainly like to know about it and stay away from it.
We don't know it was genetically modified unless we test it.
Is there any plans to maybe do some testing?
To test every product in the store and see if there's GMOs in them?
Yeah.
Wouldn't it be easier to try and get some sort of federal requirement that all foods with GMOs have a label on them?
Here we go. Are you rolling? Hi.
Everything okay?
Yep, we're just asking people what they think about genetically modified organisms and Proposition 37. And
okay. Just make sure we're 3 feet from the curb at all times.
Okay. We're on the public sidewalk here, aren't we?
3 feet from the curb is public sidewalk. Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Okay.
Pretty sure I am 3 feet from the curb. Am I not? Do you have a ruler?
Actually, I can go get one if I need to.
I think they're standing over there having a little meeting about how they would really like to kick us off this public sidewalk that we have a First Amendment right to be on right now. And they can stand there all day with their badge and the little walkie-talkie and make as many phone calls as they want, but legally we have every right to be here. Just like I think as consumers we have every right to know whether or not we're eating genetically modified frankenfood science projects when we feed ourselves and our children, and when we go to a store that labels themselves as organic but then turns around and sells us GMO.
Talk to them, but you can't just be out in front of the store.
Well, can we talk to those people?
Yeah, let's call them.
Okay.
Look.
Well, and maybe what I should do is call the shopping center.
Okay.
It's really up to them. I mean, this is their private space. This is not a public space. This is a private property owned by the shopping center.
But not by Whole Foods.
No, not this one, no.
We're just concerned to find out they also sell GMOs, so.
Actually, GMOs are in almost everything. Like, it would be really hard to find completely non-GMO anything. Uh-huh. And so, I mean, I don't think there's ever been, like, we've never claimed that we don't sell GMOs.
There's a truck from Whole Foods coming this way, and it actually says 100% real ingredients. I just think that's really ironic because I don't think genetically modified and real are synonymous in any possible way. I mean, a unicorn Pegasus is real because I wrote about it in a book, but is it real? Something I created in a lab? It's a genetically modified frankenfood science experiment. That's not real, and it's not food, at least it shouldn't be. Whole Foods was like one of the last large bastions of organic food, whole food, safe food. And that's why I think most consumers shop here. And then to quietly admit in a press release that isn't posted anywhere in the store, you have to go and search for it on their website to get it, that, oh yes, our food does contain genetically modified organisms, is just hypocritical to the nth degree, and it's dishonest and it's wrong. Do you think that maybe Whole Foods might consider supporting Proposition 37 financially?
We support Proposition 37 in a number of ways. You know, you can look at it that Whole Foods hasn't written a check to that yet.
Well, are you familiar with the fact that some of the higher-ups in Whole Foods have written a check to Christy Vilsack, Tom Vilsack's wife, who's the head of the USDA, that's pretty much in bed with Monsanto?
Out of their personal bank accounts and not on behalf of Whole Foods Market, they can do what
it's listed as Whole Foods Market, though.
Whole Foods Market well, I'm not aware of any of those.
He's also financially bankrolling Obama, who put, Michael Taylor, who's a FDA food safety czar, and that guy's been a Monsanto lobbyist for years.
What about the donations to Gary Johnson?
I don't think it's like tit for tat, one good donation, one evil donation. I mean, that doesn't make any sense.
Only the bad ones matter.
It sends the wrong message, don't you think?
No, I think our actions send the message. I think private donations made by executives sends messages from them personally about what they're doing.
So what's all the fuss about Whole Foods and GMO? Well, it seems the bigwigs over there got pretty chummy with the USDA when they were hammering out the deal over Monsanto's deregulation of GE alfalfa. Now, Walter Robb from Whole Foods is donating to Christy Vilsack, the wife of Tom Vilsack, who heads the USDA department. Tom Vilsack bent over backwards for cloning, pushed GMOs into the mainstream, opened all the doors for Big Agra, and even stood up for the open-air experimentation of GMOs that had biopharmaceuticals blowing in the wind. Then Obama appointed Tom Vilsack to be Secretary of Agriculture so he could help fast-track GMOs big time. Now Tom Vilsack's wife, Christy, is running for Congress there. But don't worry, her opponent, Steve King, is also bought out by Big Agra and the biotech industry. The only question is, why would Walter Robb or any organic industry executive want to cut checks to the wife of someone who's fought Monsanto's fight every step of the way and done nothing but deceive the organic industry about regulating GMOs?
Well, what's really kind of troubling about Whole Foods also is that while they won't back Proposition 37 financially, some of their higher-ups have financially backed and donated to the political campaigns of people like Obama, who put in Michael Taylor as our food safety czar, who was a Monsanto lobbyist for years. He's now the FDA food safety czar. You've got them financially backing Tom Vilsack's wife, and he's the USDA Secretary of Agriculture, who's totally in bed with Monsanto. So it's like, you won't give money to Proposition 37, but some of your higher-ups are personally giving money to people they should be 100% against.
So I completely agree with that. I mean, they're all corrupt.
It's disappointing. They're really big business, and they're getting bigger all the time. And Mackey has a pretty good history of not straight dealing. So,
Mr. Mackey, I would tell him to go straight south.
As we try to protect ourselves through organic food and avoid GMOs, are we making Whole Foods a sacred cow, hoping they're an ally for our cause of eating natural, wholesome, organic foods, when in fact their leadership has sold out to the USDA, has met at the table with Monsanto, and has compromised with them, and in fact stocked GMOs on their shelf? The science is in. The recent GMO study on rats serves as a stark reminder that what we don't know can hurt us. And duping an already uninformed public is just plain dangerous and evil.
While we agree that labeling non-GMO is a start, it simply does not follow that Whole Foods knowingly selling GMO products without at least warning the public, not just with some quiet press release, but with actual signage on store shelves, is wrong. Waiting for bought and paid for politicians to fix the problem is nothing short of leaving customers to fend for themselves against a clear and present danger while raking in the profits. For InfoWars Nightly News, I'm Melissa Melton.
And I'm Aaron Dykes.
From the front lines of the information war, it's Alex Jones.
And we're back. This is Mike Adams, the Health Ranger, hosting InfoWars Money Bomb. Thank you for continuing with us. We've got some very interesting information coming up. I also want to open up the phones for people who want to call in to talk about preparedness, survival, the coming debt collapse, the coming economic collapse. That's the topic to call in on. You can ask me questions. We can dialogue about whatever you want in that realm. Here's the number: 877-789-ALEX. 877-789-2539. Got that? 877-789-ALEX. So go ahead and call in there, and we'll take some calls, and we'll chat about some of what's going on in the preparedness realm. A lot of interesting information. Feel free to ask me questions. I teach preparedness courses. So if you've got a question that you think I can handle, I'll be happy to answer it. If I can't handle it, I'll say so. And maybe we'll find another caller who can answer it. By the way, it's really fun being here during the money bomb. Yeah, there's the number, 877-789-ALEX. I just noticed the sign in front of this camera that says, all hosts face this camera for money bomb. But I started out the show facing that camera. You guys should have a sign over there that says, all hosts face that camera for money bomb. Yeah, look to your left. Yeah, for those of us who are like so used to going to that camera. Anyway, it's funny. There's all kinds of interesting signs around here that you never see on the air. That's one of them. Like here's another one. Money bomb updates on Twitter is # Money Bomb 2012. And then behind that, there's another sign, and I kid you not, it says at least twice a week, we must do whistleblower interviews for 1 hour. Not complying will result in tasing and or the use of other non-lethal forms of coercion. That sign's been here a while. I remember seeing that one months ago. I don't think, excuse me, I don't think that's ever been enforced. Has it? Has there ever been a taser unleashed in this office? Not yet. Well, all you got to do to make that happen is get a poor guy in a wheelchair here and ask a police officer to come over, or a blind guy. Yeah, any someone with a disability, put them in this office, call the police, and they'll be happy to come over and tase them, right? Because that's, I guess that's what they do. Look, I'm making a bad satire joke. I don't, not all cops are bad. I know a lot of cops are listening, and we appreciate the good ones. Believe me, we really do. All right, now, as the calls are coming in, here's what we're going to do. We're going to cover some of the big issues here about the coming financial collapse, the coming food crisis, and the coming police state. I'm going to give you some of my thoughts on that. And guys, just let me know when we've got callers in, and we'll get them on the air. So here's my take on it. We are late in the game. If you're not prepared right now, if you are not living in the country right now, you're late. You're behind schedule. Things are accelerating. The pace is quickening. You have got to get a handle on this situation. If you don't have spare food, if you don't have a water filter, and I'm not just saying that because InfoWars sells the ProPure water filter. I've been saying that for 10 years. You got to have a water filter. Otherwise, you're just not prepared. If you don't have a way to defend yourself and your family and your property, whether that's with firearms or maybe people in an area where they choose not to own a firearm for whatever reason. I'm in Texas, so everybody's got firearms here. That's the method that works, tried and true, proven technique. But you got to have a way to defend yourself. You also need to have backup copies of all your important documentation. Do you have a copy of your passport? Do you have a copy of your birth certificate? I know somebody in Washington who doesn't, but you should have yours in case you need it, in case your originals burn down, get burned up, if your house gets looted, if the bank, the safe deposit boxes at banks, those are not going to be safe. They're going to be looted, most likely, in an economic collapse scenario. So how are you going to prove who you are if you have to, if the road checkpoints are set up, if they're asking for ID? How are you going to prove it? You need to have backup copies of all that information. Now, what about your skills? Do you have the ability, the skill to actually go out in a garden and plant seeds and grow food and harvest that food? I know a lot of people read books on this. It's like reading a book about playing the guitar and then thinking you're a musician, or reading a book about firearms and thinking you're like a battle master. You can't just read books about gardening and think that you have the actual physical skills and the physical endurance to do it. For one thing, you're going to get blisters all over your hands, by the way, just from gardening, okay? Just from working the tools, you're going to get blisters. And if you're not used to that level of physical exertion, then it's going to be something that's too much for you. You need to get those skills now. Get out there and practice growing some food. Get out there and practice with your firearm if that's, again, something that you choose to use to defend yourself. You need to get out there and practice using a water filter. You might own a water filter, but I bet you for 90% of you listening, that water filter is on a shelf, isn't it? I know I'm guilty of that too. I did that too for many years. And I finally pulled out, I have a big Katadyn filter, or Katadyn. It's like a camp filter. It's huge. It's like one of those $1,200 ceramic water filters from Katadyn with a giant pump on it. Finally pulled it out. Said, I better learn how to use this because I don't want to be on the day of the collapse trying to figure out all my gear. You know, that's the big mistake that we all tend to make. We accumulate gear, we accumulate food and seeds and all these things, and then we don't know how to use it when we need it. And this is true for firearms too. A lot of you guys out there, you have your firearms, you have your rifle, but you forgot to thread lock everything. So when you need it, if you're in a firefight, all the stuff's falling off your rifle, okay? Lights are falling off, scope is falling off, the foregrip is falling off, everything's falling off your rifle, or pins are coming out or whatever because you didn't thread lock it. You need to thread lock anything that's going to come off of that rifle or even a pistol if you've got a light on it or a laser sight or what have you. If you're not thread locking that stuff in place, it's going to move. It's going to move when you don't want it to move. Believe me, I've seen many guys at the range with just stuff falling off of all their guns. It's kind of not a good way to do it. Now, finally, we do have callers on the line we're going to go to in a second, but I want to give a shout out too, real quick, to Aaron Dykes and Melissa Melton for their piece on Whole Foods that you just saw a few minutes ago. That piece, if you really look at that piece, that level of reporting, that is the new 60 Minutes, but better than 60 Minutes because we tell the truth around here. You see, you know, why isn't 60 Minutes interviewing Whole Foods? Why aren't these other journalism news magazines interviewing companies about fluoride, what's really in the fluoride, about the mercury and the MSG in the vaccines? Why aren't they doing those stories? Because they don't want to tell the truth. They don't want to really do serious journalism anymore. The real serious journalism is happening right here at InfoWars, and that's why we need your support. So go to InfoWarsMoneyBomb.com, make a donation as a vote for real investigative journalism that will continue as long as you support it. You can also call in to donate at 888-253-3139. Again, the number is 888-253-3139. That's the call-in number, or the donation call-in number. And with that said, let's go to our first caller, Robert in Tennessee. You're on the air. Go ahead, sir.
Can you hear me?
Robert, yeah, I can hear you now.
I was just asking, how are you today, sir?
I am doing good. How about you?
I'm doing all right, man. I got an email from from Infowars.com letting me know about this 48-hour telecast or radio cast that you guys are doing. So I had a question for you, and I don't know how well you can answer it or not, but
go ahead.
My wife works she's actually in school and she's finishing up her degree to be an RN, and she is being forced to take a flu shot this year at the hospital that she's doing her clinicals at. Clinicals being, where you go to kind of follow along with a nurse, and so she's not really employed by this hospital. Okay,
right.
And we have followed Alex and this show for a few years now, and we have kind of line in the sand as far as what we believe and what we're going to do, and if it ever, when it got close to home, and this is kind of coming close to home. We don't take flu shots. We don't believe in it. We don't want to do it, and she's being forced to take the flu shot, or she could possibly fail her class.
All right.
And obviously not be a nurse.
I've got some of an answer for you. Obviously, the first thing is to, if possible, avoid the shot, but that may not be possible if she wants to keep her job, is what I'm hearing you say. So here's information that's not often talked about with vaccines. Most of the people who are vaccine damaged are those who are injected with vaccines at the time that they are nutrient deficient. So they're typically deficient in vitamin C. I mean, the natural stuff, not the synthetic stuff made from genetically modified corn. They're deficient in minerals. They have suppressed immune systems because of exposure to other toxic chemicals. They typically have poor diets and so on. So the vaccine damage, it's real. People do have seizures and do have comas and do have death and headaches. In fact, about 1/3 of people getting vaccine shots have headaches, which is actually a sign that the vaccine is eating your brain. Literally, it's destroying your brain in that moment. But your wife can actually increase her intake of superfoods and natural sources of vitamin C, such as camu, and nutrient-dense superfoods like chlorella, spirulina, or even Enerfood. The InfoWars store here sells Enerfood, which is a really fantastic superfood, very high-quality chlorella in that product. If she can really dose up on that before the vaccine shot, and I don't mean just an hour before, I mean like every day for 2 weeks before the shot, then she will be almost certainly protected more than 99% of the population, and her risk of suffering an acute issue from that is very, very small in that case. I'm not saying it's a total defense against vaccines, because vaccine shots they do contain mercury and MSG and formaldehyde and other things. But if you have to take it, as it sounds like in this case that's what you're describing, then that is the defense. Load up on superfoods for weeks before the shot. Get the shot if you have to, if that's your decision, and then keep doing the superfoods, and you most likely will be okay. Does that help answer your question?
It does, and I understand that you're not going to take a shot, and you're probably not going to die, or you develop, But the bottom line is that that's not really the key issue here, is it? It's the fact that she's being forced to take a shot against really her will and against her beliefs.
Absolutely.
And she
it's an invasion.
What she's worked hard for years to accomplish, and I've watched her struggle and through school, and it's tough, and now she has to come to a crossroads, and and go through this, and that I would just call
this
InfoWars and tell them about it, and see if that they want to get some cameras outside the school and cause a huge.
That's a great idea. Yeah, activism is really a good solution on this. And Robert, I think you're right. If she's willing to take a stand and say no, as Alex has explained many times on his radio show, there is no law, even in Tennessee, there is no law that she has to take that shot. They can't produce a law that says that. They only mandate it through the bureaucracy and claim that she has to. But there's no law. If she sued, she would win that lawsuit, but you'd have to have the money to hire a lawyer. You'd have to be willing to go through the media circus, which I encourage you to do. And I know that InfoWars and Natural News, where I'm the editor, would support you in doing that. But that's not a decision that every family can afford to do because of whatever their circumstances are.
It's true, but I do have the means to be able to do that, and but she's just worried that, if she does create the stink, where's she going to get a job when it's all said and done?
Well, she'll be blackballed. She won't be able to get a job in nursing if she says no to that, probably. And you're going to have to fight the system. And fighting the system it's a very admirable thing, but it's also a very, very costly thing in terms of time and financial resources and even just emotional resources. So that's why I admire people who stand up and fight the system so much. Many of those you hear right here on InfoWars, and Alex himself, of course, is probably the greatest example of someone fighting the system day after day. It takes a lot of energy. Not everybody's got that kind of energy to do it. So thank you for your call, Robert. I really appreciate your input, and I wish you the best. And if you do want to stand up to that, contact us at Natural News, and you can also email showtips@infowars.com with that information. We'll see what we can do to help you out. Guys, how many minutes we have here? About 3? Okay, yeah, 3 minutes. Let's take another call. Randall in Florida. Randall, you're on the Money Bomb here. Welcome.
Thank you very much, sir. This is a first-time caller to the InfoWars show. I'm from FEMA Region 4.
All right. What's on your mind, sir?
Well, one of the things I wanted to say alongside of the vaccines and stuff and being forced into taking vaccines, I was actually studying to be a CNA when I came down to Florida, and I'm pretty much not allowed to go into any nursing homes whatsoever because of vaccines.
Because you won't take a vaccine shot?
No, sir, because every time I take a vaccine shot, it makes me sick as hell.
Yeah, because it's poison.
I am allergic to MSG.
Absolutely. Yeah. Do you get a headache? A migraine?
It gives me a headache, gives me migraine. I turn whiter than white.
Dude, those are signs that you're being poisoned. I mean, any rational doctor should say the same thing. I didn't mean to get too casual and call you dude, but I mean, it's like...
It's okay, man. It's totally fine with me.
Yeah, all right. But, yeah, you're smart not to take that vaccine shot. So what are you doing now for work?
I also want to say that, I'm also fighting the fight down here in Florida over friggin' fluoride in the water.
Good for you.
It's such a horrible thing to put to people. I read all the stuff on it.
Absolutely. Well, good for you. We need more people like you. I know there are a lot of citizens in Portland, Oregon, who are also fighting against fluoridation there. Yeah. Can you still hear me? All right. I don't know if you can't hear me, guys, but I'll just say thank you for calling in, and you're right on. Fight against fluoridation of the water. That's crucial. I mean, you think about each one of these is a poison, right? The fluoride is a poison. The fluoride that they put into the water, right, which is hydrofluosilicic acid. Typically, it's an acidic form of fluoride, chemically altered. And then the vaccines have the poisons that we just showed you on the screen from the CDC. The MSG is in those vaccines. The formaldehyde is in the vaccines. The mercury is in the vaccines. You combine the fluoride chemicals with all these chemicals in the vaccines, plus the GMO, right? Plus the stuff that's in your fragrance products, the cancer-causing chemicals that are used as cheap fragrance chemicals in laundry detergent and personal care products, and you name it. No wonder people are dying. No wonder there's cancer everywhere. That's why we got to stop this, all right? We got to stand up to it. And the best way to do that is to help support the InfoWars Money Bomb at InfoWarsMoneyBomb.com. Coming up right now, we've got the Nightly News special report. David Knight's report about the EPA's invasion of the Smoky Mountains. That's coming up right now. And then I'll be back with you here, Mike Adams, the Health Ranger, right here on the InfoWars Money Bomb. Be right back.
It's the InfoWars Money Bomb 2012, October 18th and 19th, 48-hour special transmission. The tyrants need to know we're coming for them, and the InfoWar is expanding, and the people of America and the world are awakening and behind us.
While the global scientific dictatorship is busy injecting toxins into our water supply to dumb us down, we're busy injecting reality into society. It's the beginning of the end for the New World Order. Donate at InfoWarsMoneyBomb.com.
I'm David Knight, reporting for InfoWars Nightly News. Just before I left for Austin, I took my family to the Smoky Mountains. Now, long before the Europeans named it the Smoky Mountains, the Cherokee had a name for it, and if I pronounce it correctly, it's something like Chaconoque, which means place of the fine particulate smog. No, not actually. That's what the EPA wants you to think. I was surprised to see this graphic on the EPA's site where they explain what PM 2.5 is. They use the Smoky Mountains as a poster child. Is it really PM 2.5 and man-made smog that makes the Smoky Mountains smoky? No. We all know that it isn't, but we see this kind of thing done over and over again, like they did with polar bears on ice floes. Remember that? And of course, Al Gore is telling us that the oceans are rising, but he builds his $9 million mansion in Montecito, California, right on the ocean side. So I don't think he believes that either. But they use these subliminal messages to try to convince us. And they can be quite effective. And speaking of bears, every Mountains gets a handout that looks like this, warning you about black bears. And as my wife was reading that to the small children, I started thinking a lot of the stuff they were saying about bears could be said about government, especially about the EPA. Let me just read a few things here. With aggressive behavior, the EPA, is demanding more space. If the bear or EPA continues to follow you, stand your ground. If the EPA gets closer, talk louder or shout at it. Act aggressively. Act together as a group if you have companions. Make yourself look as large as possible. Don't run, don't turn away, and don't feed the EPA. It only encourages further problems. It's David Knight for InfoWars Nightly News.
right, that was a great piece by David Knight, and love that guy's voice, by the way. He's got a good future here. In fact, just a good future in broadcast. In fact, you know, the whole team here is really just amazing. And it's like every time I come here to host the show, when I'm invited, you know, once or twice a month, there's always new people here. It's amazing because everybody's so good. It's like, you know, InfoWars is just attracting the best of the best. You got Jakari Jackson, you got Badandi. I just met David Ortiz today. I haven't seen his pieces on the show yet, but I met him. And David Knight I met, and Melissa, she's out there. I mean, it's like when I walk into this office, to get to this office, I have to walk through like the hall of who's who of alternative news. It's pretty cool. Actually, Rob Dew's out there, Darren McBreen is out there, Marcos, and the whole team. And then, of course, Aaron is like hiding off in his own like cubbyhole office somewhere else. It's like totally different part of the building. It's anyway, because, you know, he doesn't want to be disturbed. He's busy. He's always busy working on stuff. He's working till late night. Anyway, it's just a great crew. I'm just happy to be here and to know these people and to have that camaraderie and that trust and that working relationship to be part of this operation. It's really an honor and a privilege. Now, in this segment, here's what we've got. We've got Melissa Malkin is going to be joining us from the Yes on Prop 37 group out of California. And guys, let me know when you got her on the phone, okay? And let me give you the lowdown on what this is all about, because you know that DuPont and Monsanto and all these big food and chemical giants are fighting so desperately hard against GMO labeling that they've already been caught violating, I think it's Stanford University policy with some of their videos. They got caught. They had to pull their ads off the air because it was a violation. They weren't allowed to do that. Well, now, according to a press release I just got this morning from Stacy, who's on the phone with us, from the California Right to Know group for Prop 37, the No on 37 campaign has been caught now fabricating false statements from the FDA. False statements, and then illegally using the FDA symbol on a mailer. Here, there's a shot of it right there. This false statement here, the U.S. Food and Drug Administration says a labeling policy like Prop 37 would be, quote, inherently misleading. That is false. That is fabricated. And they're mailing that out to people in complete violation of all ethics, of even probably law. So we're going to talk to Stacy now to break this down and give you more details on this. Stacy, welcome to the InfoWars Money Bomb. It's good to talk to you again.
So good to talk to you, Mike. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for all that you do. I know you are working just as hard as the crew here is working. Tell us about this latest thing where they're just inventing quotes from the FDA and using the FDA logo. What's the deal?
Well, they have no regard for the truth. Absolutely no. The Proposition 37 opposition is, spending almost $1 million a day bombarding California with an ad campaign of deceit and lies, of which this is just the latest example. And as you said, they just stick the FDA logo on their campaign propaganda with a quote that FDA never said and send it out to voters across the state.
So why don't they just invent a quote from President Obama and say Obama says GMOs should remain a secret and put the presidential seal on the envelope and mail that out to people?
Exactly. I know. I'm wondering if we can get away with, saying that the Department of Defense says GMO labeling is the highest priority for the country and stick their seal on it and send it to voters.
Just say it's a matter of national security. I mean,
exactly. I mean, it's just incredible. They have no regard. The law is very clear that you are not allowed to knowingly affix a government seal to documents, and it's punishable by up to 5 years in prison. So it's in the hands of the Department of Justice now to see if they want to investigate it and look into it. We're in a fight here to get the truth to California voters and just battling an onslaught of an incredible avalanche of lies.
This is the real problem with what's happening. The corruption in America is so off the charts, where you've got people like John Corzine, right, whose organization took billions of dollars from investors like Gerald Celente, and he never got prosecuted, never even got arrested. didn't have to do the perp walk, and is never going to be prosecuted. There's never going to be an investigation. You've got so many issues out there where there's obvious criminal misconduct in other situations where there's just runaway criminality, like the gun running into Mexico, Operation Fast and Furious. And yet nothing ever happens to these people. And what you're bringing up with Prop 37 is really the same thing. It's just runaway, lawless, perhaps outright criminality, and nobody's held accountable. What do you think?
That's about right. You know, as you mentioned, they misrepresented Stanford now 3 times, and it's just an incredible situation. I mean, they put this Dr. Henry Miller, who's with the Hoover Institute, right-wing think tank on Stanford campus, in their ads with Stanford buildings in the background and identify him as an MD at Stanford. Well, he's not. So
Yeah,
they
that was
got
a
in
lie.
trouble for that, had to take down the ads, reshoot them.
Wasn't he just working in an office that was on the Stanford campus? That's
yes, he works at the Hoover Institute. And not only that, he's on TV every hour of every day, all day long, telling voters that Prop 37 makes no sense, which is having an effect on the polls incredibly. But this guy, most of the commonly decent things that make sense to the rest of us don't make sense to Henry Miller. He is a radical ideologue. He wants to bring DDT back to the United States. He's attacked Rachel Carson. He's written that low levels of nuclear radiation may be beneficial to our health. He wrote a piece about that after Fukushima. I mean, this guy is crazy, and they're putting him in front of California voters saying, trust him. He knows what makes sense and what doesn't, and people are going for it. So we're just shaking our heads saying...
Stacey, I think that your opinions are just outlandish. I think we should have some Diet DDT soda. I think we should turn Fukushima into a cancer treatment center where you just walk through there.
There you go.
And you're cured of cancer. And I think, they should have like DDT shampoo.
The world according to Henry Miller.
That's the Henry Miller Inc.
Exactly. I love that. And a simple label is too scary, but, DDT and Agent Orange and radiation, not scary. But a label we cannot handle. I mean, it's crazy. I think voters are going to see through it. I really do. I think they are starting to get sick of seeing and hearing ads every 2 minutes, starting to question. I did get a phone call today from a woman who said, I haven't paid any attention to Prop 37, but I saw an ad on TV, and I noticed it was funded by Monsanto. Can you get me a yard sign? I don't like Monsanto.
Yeah, I mean, isn't it like the world's 10 largest pesticide companies are in fact donating money to the No on 37 campaign?
That's true. The top 6 funders are the biggest 6 pesticide companies. And here's what's outrageous is 3 of them are European companies that can't grow GMO crops in their own countries. That's 2 German chemical companies and 1 Swiss chemical company. Not allowed to grow GMOs there, but they're going to spend millions of dollars trying to convince California that we don't even have a right to know.
So there has never been a more clear division of poison, and the poisoners, the so-called scientific poisoners, versus people who are just trying to protect honest labeling, honest food, honest agriculture, honest parenting, so you can buy foods for your children and you know what's in them. There's never been a more clear division. This is the issue of our time. It's the people versus the corporate poisoners.
It is, and it's really a true test. Do we have a democracy left in this country? Can a people's movement win out? Or I was thinking about writing a piece. Can 6 pesticide companies, 1 crazy doctor, and pet food really take down a people's movement? And that was Henry Miller's whole thing on TV, was trying to convince people that Prop 37 is confusing because pet food would be labeled.
Well, the big sign with the No on 37 campaign is that their ads don't even mention GMO.
Never, not once.
They won't utter the phrase genetically engineered because they know people would obviously want that labeled. So they use all this obfuscation and this trickery and this deceit, and then making up the false quote from the FDA, and then violating Stanford University policy and just lying. I mean, these people are evil. Look, if Henry Miller is going to be the spokesperson for this, and if GMOs really cause cancer in humans the way that we've seen they've done in rats, if this continues, Henry Miller may end up killing more people than Adolf Hitler.
Well, I certainly think that Henry Miller is not a friend to children and not a friend to health and not a person who we should even entertain for a second as a credible spokesperson. Yet they've trotted him out. Well, now they've taken him down and they're going to shift their tactics. Now they're showing doctors on TV and claiming that 500 doctors support their position, which is just flat out, again,
just
fabrication.
a lie. Yeah, sure.
Most
just make
of the
that
major
up.
health and doctors groups are supporting GMO labeling, and they're supporting Prop 37, the American Public Health Association, Physicians for Social Responsibility, the California Nurses, all the major health groups.
Well, hey, you know, go back to the ads in the Journal of the American Medical Association in the 1930s. More doctors smoke Camels than any other cigarette. There you go. More doctors support DDT than any other pesticide. More doctors support GMO than any other genetically engineered artificial food. I mean, it just never ends. It's just a new poison, new generation, but the same old lies.
So how do we wake people up? I mean, that's the question. How do we get the truth out in the midst of this incredible bombardment of lies on TV that do manipulate people's thoughts? But we have, of course, a huge network online, and we just have to all be telling everyone we know. And for people not in California, calling everyone you know in California and telling them, pay attention to this. This is hugely important. We can win, but only if every single one of us gets out there telling the truth.
Absolutely, absolutely. And in fact, you know, one of your biggest allies in this fight, Stacey, has been InfoWars. Alex Jones has covered GMOs exhaustively. They've published my stories on GMO. They've published videos. They've had other guests on GMO, Jeffrey Smith, Ronnie Cummins, many others. In fact, you've been a guest on the show, I believe, when I was hosting before.
Yes.
The InfoWars is a big ally for GMOs. So, folks, please support InfoWars. They need your financial assistance to keep doing this job. So go to InfoWarsMoneyBomb.com or call this number to donate now. 888-253-3139 and help support this organization that is speaking the truth about GMOs and demanding that consumers simply have the right to know that in a free market we should have honest labels so that we can make an informed decision. It's the basis of a free market economy is actually having information. Otherwise, it's a mystery of what you're buying. I mean, think about this, Stacey. What do they want next? If they don't want GMOs labeled, are they going to go for saying, well, the ingredients list should be removed from foods, and that should just be a giant question mark? Like, you can't even know what you're eating at all.
Well, their opinion seems to be that we're not smart enough to be able to handle information, so they might go for that. And, of course, they told us many stories when nutrition labeling came up at all about how the sky would fall and grocery costs would go through the roof. And they're trying that, of course, in California. And it's very cynical because they're hitting low-income communities with the message that the grocery costs will go up by hundreds of dollars a year. And they don't even, when they debate with us in a real public forum, they don't even bring that up because they know they can't even defend it in any way. But that doesn't matter when you're going to go up on TV and just say it's true. You don't have to defend it.
No, look, they're printing the labels anyway. It doesn't cost any more to have text on the label. I mean, they're printing the label. The ink is already on the label. I mean, come on. It's a joke that it's going to cost any more. And besides, food prices are going up on their own anyway. They're going up because of the devaluation of the currency due to Federal Reserve fiat currency creation policy. You know, food prices are going up because of the drought, because so many crops failed. You know, food prices are going up no matter what, but definitely not because they had to print a few lines of text on a label.
Right.
Printing that label anyway. Well, all right, so what else, Stacey? Give us your website so that people can go to your website if they want to just get on board with labeling GMOs.
Yes, please. Check out our website, yeson37.org, and you can sign up for our listserv. We're sending daily emails to help folks figure out how to plug in. Today we sent one that said orange jumpsuits for the No on 37 campaign because they've now looks like they may have actually violated federal law and could end up behind bars. We can only hope and dream. But we do send out some fun stuff on our listserv actions, how you can plug in. We're doing phone banking. We're asking folks to please donate. Every dollar counts to help us get up on the air. And you can find out all that on yeson37.org.
All right, excellent. Yeson37.org. And, of course, you can continue to see editorial coverage of that issue here on InfoWars, the website Infowars.com. And, of course, I'm covering over at naturalnews.com on a pretty regular basis there, too. We have a lot of focus on this issue. Stacey, are you okay to take a call or two? Do you have a few minutes?
Oh, yeah.
All right. Let's do that. Now, to the callers, I know you may have called in on the preparedness topic, and I apologize. We're shifting gears here, but we're going to go back to preparedness after this segment. But if you have a question for Stacy, I'd like you to give us that question about food labeling, about GMO, and about Monsanto. Let's talk about that. I know we've got, Nicole in Michigan on the line. Nicole, are you there, and do you have a question? Hello, Nicole. All right, Nicole's not with us. Mary in Philly, are you with us, Mary?
I am.
Hi there, Mary. How you doing?
Hi. I'm all right. How are you?
Doing good. We've got Stacy with us from the Yes on 37 campaign. Do you have a question or comment about GMOs?
Yes, actually, I'm really happy about how InfoWars has expanded. I've been with you guys for years, and I'm really happy that Alex Jones' message is really starting to, get some speed. But my thing is, I'm an African-American woman, and my issue is getting my community to understand where we are at as a society, as a community, and get them to understand that we have to stop eating these poisons and start supporting things like Proposition 37. And how do I get the message out to them and try to convince them that this stuff needs to happen?
Well, let me ask you, Mary, when you talk to people in your neighborhood right now, are they aware of GMOs?
Most of them are not. They don't even think about it. It's not even a consideration.
So do you try to teach them about it, and what's the reaction?
Absolutely. I try to teach them about it, and usually the answer is it's just food. It's just food.
Wow.
And it's not just food. There's just a lack of information.
Let me ask our guest, Stacy. Stacy, are there any specific strategies for the African-American community to get on board, up to speed on GMOs?
Well, a couple of things. I think that GMOs are a mystery to a lot of American consumers of all demographics because we just haven't heard about it. It's been hidden from all of us. And so that is one challenge that we have in California here is just educating people about what genetic engineering is. And we always talk to them about how it's the genetic material of one species being forced into the DNA of another in ways that can't occur in nature. And, one interesting thing that we do see in the polls is that support among the African-American community is far, far higher than support among the white community for the proposition. So
that's not surprising because the African-Americans that I talk to are also very skeptical of vaccines. They know that government-mandated vaccines, look at the history of vaccine experiments and medical experiments done on black folks. How much more do you need to know not to trust the system?
Yeah, right, and skeptical of corporations and just saying, let's give us the choice. So I think, that's a really positive thing. But again, that's just educating that we need to be doing about what GMOs even are and where they are in food. And we do have a lot of info on our website at yeson37.org about, in the facts section about what genetic engineering is, what kinds of foods, and it's mostly processed foods, but we are seeing the first whole foods arrive in supermarkets. For example, there's a new sweet corn that's now on sale in Walmart that's been engineered to actually produce an insecticide within every cell of the corn itself. So it's pesticides not on the food where you can wash it off, but in the food.
Yeah.
And I think when people find that out, it becomes clear as an example because it's the same corn that we've always had all our lives, only as of this summer, it's not the same corn. It looks the same, but it's this engineered corn that absolutely should be labeled. And if Prop 37 passes, it would just say genetically engineered on the bin.
Well, let me go back to Mary if you're still on the phone. Mary, what would your message be to the other African-American listeners who are trying to do the same thing you're doing and wake people up about GMOs?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
Yeah, what would your message be? There's a lot of people listening and watching right now, many African Americans, of course. What would your message be to them that they can use to help in their communities and their families to wake people up?
I would just say that, at least in my community, we have a history of eating bad already, and this is a new level that is not just, it's transcending all communities, and it's just time to wake up and ensure that the next generation, I'm a young person myself, and I want to ensure that my younger sisters, my children, are going to be able to eat nutritious food that's going to actually help them be a better person. And that's basically what I would love for my community to really understand.
Well, Mary, you seem like a very thoughtful and well-spoken person. I believe that if you hold some meetings and share that message with people, I think a lot of people would listen to you. And so I appreciate your courage and your call today, and I wish you the best in getting that message out. Keep up the good work. We got to get this message out. Now, so thank you for your call, Mary. Very good points there. And getting back to Stacy. So this is coming down to the wire here. The enemies of honest food are spending $1 million a day, you said, to make sure that people don't know what they're eating. That's an astonishing amount of money.
It is. The good news is they can't actually probably really spend much more. I mean, they're already saturating the airwaves. The challenge for us is we've got to get enough money to get up on the air, and we do have money to run ads, but it's going to be tough to be competitive.
Well, we're sending you a check pretty soon, by the way. Awesome. We've been raising money for you, but it's a drop in the bucket compared to Monsanto bucks. I mean, we can't compete with millions of dollars. You know what? They donated like $6 million just Monsanto, I think, right? Something like that?
Yeah, $7 million. They're the largest funder by far. We can't compete, but we need to get at least enough to get our message on the air, and then we have to just be blasting our online networks as much as possible, getting the word out to everyone.
And we will.
And getting people outside the state to call people that you know in California and talk to them about this. We're going to have a huge phone banking effort, so you can sign up for that on our website.
Okay, that's on yeson37.org. And again, folks, support InfoWars, because InfoWars is on board with GMO, the issue of GMO. And go to InfoWarsMoneyBomb.com, make a donation right now. This organization right here, Stacy, just so you know, I don't know how much you track InfoWars overall, but they not only cover GMOs, they cover dangers in vaccines, they cover liberty and freedom, they cover what I call real environmentalism, not the sort of politically faked environmentalism to control people, but how do we actually save the planet from the poisoners, from the GMO, which is self-replicating genetic pollution, from the deadly chemicals, the deadly mercury, the deadly fluoride, all these other things. Really, InfoWars is legitimate environmentalism, even though a lot of people don't think of it that way. That's another thing that this group stands for.
Really great information. I really just want to thank you for being such a pioneer, both with your website, Mike, and also InfoWars, for educating people about genetically engineered foods, because that's really where I think the movement is coming from, the fact that people are waking up and people are going online to search out information and finding out about things that we didn't even ever think about before. And I think that's really what's driven what's happening here in California, because this is a true people's movement. I mean, it came from the ground up. It did not come from environmental groups. The opposition says it came from trial lawyers. That's ridiculous. It came from moms out on the street petitioning to get this on the ballot, saying, we want to know what's in our food. And these moms, many of them have seen their kids get allergies or get other chronic diseases, and they're starting to do research to say why. Why are so many kids getting sick? And they're finding out information about chemicals, concerns about genetic engineering, and saying, just give us a label.
Stacey, we only have a couple minutes left, but I want to ask you that question about environmentalists. Where are the environmentalists on this issue of GMO? They're all MIA on GMO. OMG. That's crazy. But they should be the most outspoken people about the genetic pollution and how that could alter the ecosystems of the planet. But they're nowhere to be heard from, at least. I mean, I'm not aware of any big environmental group getting behind GMO labeling or questioning the safety of GMOs or anything. What's going on?
Well, we are seeing some major groups come forward. Pesticide Action Network.
Oh, that's true, yeah.
Yeah, Environmental Working Group is doing great stuff.
True.
Center for Food Safety. So we are seeing, and, more would be great. I mean,
what do you mean, like Greenpeace? Where's Greenpeace on this?
Greenpeace has not been doing GMO work in the U.S. for years. They still do in Europe. They've been helping, though, behind the scenes. I mean, there's a lot of groups care about this issue. They don't have a lot of money to work on it, and this is sort of now what's happening in California, a revival of making this a forefront of the environmental movement. I think that will happen in the wake of this. And that we will see renewed effort across the country for GMO labeling and for testing and for, making a common sense system for dealing with GMOs.
Well, yeah, because if you understand anything about ecosystems and sustainable life on our planet, like an oil spill in the Gulf, that's bad, but it can be remediated over time, perhaps with bacteria, for example. and it dilutes, and it again, it's highly toxic, but it dilutes and it goes away over time. It's bad, but not nearly as bad as self-replicating pollution, which is GMO. That stuff, it's like once you unleash it into the environment, you can't put it back in the box because it contaminates other seeds that then replicate and grow. And now you could be threatening the entire future of agriculture. We don't know, but it's a grand experiment. And why are we doing an experiment on all of the planet? Doesn't make any sense.
Without even giving consumers a choice. That's why it's so important to do this now. And we have a chance to get this done in just a few weeks in California, but only if everyone comes up to the plate now and gets in the game.
Absolutely. Well, Stacey Malkin, I want to thank you for your time, for your courage, for your dedication to this issue. And I want to encourage all those watching to not only support InfoWars at InfoWarsMoneyBomb.com, but also go to yeson37.org and be part of this consumer revolution for honest food. Thank you for joining us, Stacey.
Thanks so much, Mike. Have a great day.
All right, you too. Great to have you on. Man, I love that group. They're getting some things done. They're rocking the boat. They're rattling the cages of the status quo. That's what we do around here. Yeah, and all of us do it. In fact, David Ortiz has a piece coming up in just a minute. It's he hosts a Man on the Street report and gets some local citizens' views about the Obama phone. I can't stop laughing about that one. And the Lifeline program. Some people are screaming Obama phone into my ear. Thank you, guys. Oh, man, I should have brought my Muppet. You know, the puppet on that Label It song? I should have brought that guy in here. We could have done the Obama phone lip sync contest. Yes, exactly. All right, stay with us, folks, right here on the InfoWars Money Bomb. This is Mike Adams. We'll be right back after this video with David Ortiz. Talk to you in a minute. All right.
You got Obama phone?
Yes, everybody in Cleveland, low minority, got Obama phone. Keep Obama in president, you know. He gave us a phone.
He gave you a phone.
Do more.
As the Obama phone video continues to go viral, the video has prompted many Americans to criticize the welfare state and the pitiful results most welfare programs have produced. One such program is the Lifeline Benefit Program, which has received rave reviews from the Obama phone lady and other low-income residents.
I have about like 6 in my personnel. Each and every one of these phones work. At home, I know I have about 30, and all of them are on.
Do you think it's a good idea for the federal government to charge $3 on your cell bill to give people free cell phones?
I don't think so. I think a cell phone's not a necessity, so I don't think the government has this right to do that.
Not at all. That's completely garbage. I mean, I pay $100 plus a month for my cell phone. I don't see why they're handing out free cell phones to other people.
No.
Why not?
Well, I think it's a product. If people want to buy it and can afford to buy it, they should. But I don't think the government should be handing them out.
Handing somebody a cell phone is an opportunity to get a job. It's an opportunity to call back your employer. There is no more public phones. So you can't just ask them to shove them in the public phones. They've been reduced by 90% in this country. So I think there should be a program. But every American who has a cell phone to pay $3 without being asked, that's not American in my book.
So it should be optional?
It should be optional.
I don't think so. I think that's a controversial question, but I think basic human rights like food, shelter, healthcare should be given by the government, but not commodities like cell phones, no.
Yeah, you see, I do have an issue with people reducing really complicated issues down to quick sound bites, and that generally people that are receiving government benefits aren't like living the high life and living in comfort. So I don't really have a problem with following the edict of helping the people that need the most help.
I do. I think it's important to give a little to get a lot, and obviously we've all gotten a lot. I went to public school. I drive on the roads, I ride my bike in bike lanes, so I do believe in giving money so that other people can have something that I already have.
Generally speaking, I don't have a problem with providing poor people with cell phones, especially when those poor people are women with children, and without cell phones, they find themselves in danger. We don't have pay phones anymore, so people can't just like walk around the corner and use a phone. So a low cost, bare bones cell phone for safety only makes sense.
The FCC, which oversees this initiative, says phone ownership among this group has increased by an estimated 12% since the program began in the 1980s. According to the Cato Institute, since President Barack Obama took office, federal welfare assistance has increased by an estimated 41%. The organization also notes that over the past half-century, both the federal government and local governments have spent an estimated $15 trillion trying to combat poverty. However, during this time, the poverty rate has only decreased by about 4%. Is that stealing?
I think it is, because it's not the citizens' rights. I mean, it's not the obligation of the citizens to pay for other people's cell phones.
It's stealing in a sense. I mean, not over, like, in short, yes, it is.
What if it went to poor people?
I mean, I'm not the richest guy either. I mean, I'm not poor, but I mean, I don't have a lot of money, and I spend some of my money on my cell phone, so why can't other people?
I don't think so.
Why not?
I think we all get a lot from the government. So I got roads, I got public school, etc. So I think public services are for the good of everybody.
Well, I don't know if it's stealing. I think it's probably excessive spending on the federal government's part.
I think as far as $3 go, I don't think it's stealing from the American public. But I do think, I don't know, I guess you would have to, public should be informed, is what I'm saying. So you should have access to the information of where it's going. If you don't, then I don't know if I would want to label it stealing, but I would label it wrong.
Always fighting on behalf of liberty. For InfoWars Nightly News, I'm David Ortiz.
I remember when I lost my mind. There was something so pleasant about that place. Even your emotions have an echo in so much space.
All right, we're back. This is Mike Adams, the Health Ranger here, hosting InfoWars Money Bomb. And wow, what a cool opportunity. We just heard from Stacey Malkin on the Yes on 37 campaign out of California. And we've got callers on the line. Thank you for holding callers. We are going to go to those callers in a minute, but first, I got to show you something. Can you get a shot of this? These are my goats, a couple of them. And I've discovered that, see those goats? I've discovered that one of them really loves goji berries. And her name is Nadia, and she's now been nicknamed Nadia the Berry Thief because she will eat all the berries before the other goats. And we milk Nadia twice a day. In fact, I got to go back and milk her this evening. And there's a Nigerian dwarf goat is what Nadia is. And you're seeing Yuki and Nadia right there. So goat chi berries, good one. Rob Dew just came up with that one. Goat chi berries. That's interesting because in Chinese medicine, goji berries are, of course, a good source of qi. In addition, I was wondering why they're climbing on the walls and trying to eat my pants when I'm walking around in the goat area. Anyway, they do literally try to eat everything. So you gotta keep your eyes on goats if you have them. But look, the reason I showed you that is because I want you to know that even as I'm advocating, all of us get prepared and learn gardening skills and learn how to raise backyard chickens and learn all these self-sufficiency skills. I'm doing the same thing too. I'm doing it. And it's a lot of fun. I'm learning tons of things. I'd never raised goats before in my life. I didn't grow up on a farm. Had to learn that. And the first thing you learn when you raise goats is you got to learn how to build a fence to keep the goats in. So how do you build a fence that actually doesn't move a lot, even when the soil moisture changes through drought and rains and so on? And I'm learning a lot being here in Texas. And Texas folks are ingenious. They have a way to solve every problem with animals and fences and barns and agriculture. They are a very well-informed group of people. I'm happy to be among them, and it's a good area to be in. Now, I want to get back to callers. We've got Robert, actually from Texas, on the line. If you're still on the line there, sir. Robert, can you hear me?
How are you doing?
Robert, yeah, you're on the show. Hi.
Hey, I live here in Austin, south of Slaughter, and point being is when I first started prepping, I had no experience like you, and I learned, and it was a messed up time. In other words, I made a lot of mistakes, but now I've gotten better at it, and now I'm starting to really become sufficient. It does take time, and you will make mistakes.
Absolutely, it does take time. What were some of the biggest things that you learned along that journey?
Well, I'm still learning, but one of them is I went over to Home Depot, and I got the mats for my grass because it was dead anyway. And so I put the mats down thinking, put the dirt on there and I'll grow. Well, guess what happened? The grass started growing, and it got through those mats. I didn't till. So that was just one mistake. And then another mistake I made is I planted my lettuce too late in the year, but now I got lettuce popping up.
Yeah, and it's bolting into seeds and everything now, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And so, yeah, and I've got my 1 month supply of food that I got through eFoods Direct, just in case, and I've got my little filter. And so, but it's a frustrating thing, but you just got to stick with it because once it hits the fan, at least you're prepared.
Well, yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned that you're going to fail a lot of times learning some of these skills. If you ever really tried to grow some of your own food, for those of you watching and listening, when I was in South America, there was a point where I was literally growing 70% of my diet. That's the most I've ever done. I'm not at that level now, not even close. But to do that, it requires a lot of work, and I had help doing that. I had workers helping. So to do it on your own, man, it makes you realize what the pioneers went through, doesn't it, Robert?
Yeah, yes, it does. And I really don't know what else to say but even if you're living in the city, if you have a balcony, start growing your own food because it does taste a lot better. That's pretty much it, Mike, and I enjoy your articles.
Well, thank you very much, and thank you for your call, sir. Good to hear from you, and some good reminders on preparedness. That is number one. If you're not doing it now, if you're not out of the city right now, you're behind schedule. Get out of the city. I cannot emphasize enough how much the cities could become death zones literally overnight. In fact, you should get that book, the new book by James Wesley Rawls, the Patriots. I don't know the title of the new book, but it's the newest Patriots book by James Wesley Rawls. I'm reading that right now, and of course, it's filled with practical information. And of course, InfoWars is always giving you lots of good information on preparedness. Let's go to another caller, Scott Free in Denver. Am I getting that right? Are you there?
You got that right.
All right. Welcome.
How you doing?
Doing good. What's on your mind?
Another wonderful day. It's a wonderful day in Liberty when we got a 48-hour money bomb for Infowars.com.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well,
so some of the topics I wanted to touch on with you, Mike, is waking people up to the GMOs and getting prepared. I have more than a couple months supply of food. I secured 80 acres of land, and I'm trying to get out there and put a structure on it now.
Well, that sounds like you're ahead of the game. You have a water supply already there?
Yeah, we're zoned for a well. Again, I have to get out there and make sure I got Berkey water filters until then.
And it says here you're in the Colorado area, is that right?
Yep, we're in Denver, Colorado.
So you have, how deep's your water out there?
My land's out in Trinidad, so I'm not exactly certain what the technical distance is, but I know it's going to cost a few $1,000s, which I'm already planning for.
Yeah, for sure. We had a well drilled here in Central Texas, and that can run, $12,000, $14,000, but the water quality is good if you go down that deep.
Exactly.
So what else have you learned in your preparedness plans that you'd like to pass along to our listeners?
Well, everybody out there, be patient, especially with your family. You love them and you want to beat them over the head with what you know and what you've learned. But again, it's like approaching a mouse or a rat, and you want to feed them something, and you don't want to make large movements to scare them away. I'm getting people that I love and care about to start coming around to the truth and waking up.
Yeah, you're right, because they're not going to have time. I mean, the collapse could come suddenly, and you know, it's not good enough for them to just turn to you and say, oh, you were right, but they're still unprepared.
One question I do have for you, Mike, concerning my mom. She's believed her doctor for going on 15 years now. She's got fibromyalgia and high blood pressure. I want to start getting her to where she knows she can get off those medications, and especially in an upcoming collapse scenario, I don't want her going through withdrawals then. I want to, get some resources, and I know Dr. Tenpenny, but in your advice, what route do I want to go?
Well, what's her diet like right now? Is it poor, good, great? What is it?
I would say it's the middle of the road. We're trying to get both my parents on nothing but organic food, just like myself.
All right. Well, first of all, I'm not a doctor, so disclaimer there. But just generally speaking, fibromyalgia is often associated with a magnesium deficiency. That's one thing to really look at, getting a high-quality source of magnesium. And the correct chemical bond of magnesium that you really want to intake in a dietary supplement is typically, I believe, magnesium orotate. You don't want a magnesium oxide because that's a sort of the cheap rock version of magnesium. If you're taking a magnesium supplement, get a good quality magnesium. Orotate is one of the forms. Oxide is the cheap form. There's some other forms of magnesium. You can search on my website, Natural News, for the different forms to see what's best for you. That's one thing. The other thing is, get onto a superfood. And get her onto a superfood, and make sure she's drinking that daily. Enerfood that InfoWars sells is very good with chocolate. And so if you could get like a cacao powder or a chocolate superfood, combine it with the Enerfood, and believe it or not, blend it with an avocado and some milk. I like to use almond milk. And you can throw a banana in there to sweeten it up, or use coconut sugar is the best new sugar that's high in minerals. If she likes that, she'll drink it every day. Maybe you or another family member could make it for her. And the nutrient value of that superfood is immense. It will help in supporting so many conditions, not just the ones that you mentioned.
Sure thing.
Any other questions?
Well, I love when Alex has you on, and we got to just keep doing what we're doing. God bless you. In the name of Jesus Christ, I put a hedge of protection around all the InfoWars crew and everybody connected with the Liberty Movement.
Thank you, Scott Free. Thank you for your prayers. They are much appreciated here, and by the whole team and myself as well. Thank you very much. Thank you for your call. Good points there on the call. So let's go to some other callers. Matt in Indiana. Matt, are you on the line? Can you hear me?
Mike Adams, yes. Can you hear me okay?
I sure can, Matt. Welcome to the InfoWars Money Bomb.
All right. Hello out there to all the Info Warriors. I just had a question. You did a piece on Natural News about textured vegetable protein.
Yeah.
Well, I've been a vegetarian for 11 years now, and looking at Interfood or eFoods Direct, one of their main ingredients in their food is textured vegetable protein. So not to try and cause any conflicts between that, but I was just wondering what your suggestion is and what you have found out about that. And then also I had a question about cilantro and aluminum from the chemtrails, and then also these heirloom plants you buy from Home Depot. You plant, they grow, and then they don't produce any fruit on them.
Oh, like hybrid plants is what you're talking about?
No, heirloom.
Oh, heirloom.
Yeah, I buy heirloom tomato plants from Home Depot or wherever. And then when I plant them, they grow, but they just don't produce anything. So is it like...
That's usually a mineral deficiency in the soil. That's usually what that is. That's pretty easy to solve in plants. Just go online and search for tomato plants not flowering, and you'll typically get a list of minerals that's deficient in. I don't happen to know what mineral that might be, zinc or boron or something like that. Like melons need a lot of boron, for example, to taste sweet.
Okay.
But on your previous...
I had a question about cilantro. It's a good chelator of metals in the body. But if you grow that in the garden and there's aluminum in the air, aluminum in the soil, does it absorb that aluminum so then whenever you eat that to get rid of the metals in your body, you're just intaking more metals?
Well, okay, that's a great question. I'm glad you brought that up. Cilantro does bind to lots of metals, including aluminum, including arsenic and mercury as well. Truth is, there's a lot of arsenic in the soil everywhere. And, you know, it's interesting. There's a lot of scrutiny about arsenic in certain foods, but people are typically blind to the fact that there's actually arsenic in everything. There's arsenic in powdered milk. There's arsenic in the vegetables you're getting at the store. There's arsenic in bananas. You know, but it's
bound to
it's bound. Right, and it's not just mined out of the ground like a metal rock and, you know, dissolved in sulfuric acid or whatever. It's actually bound into the plant. So cilantro, even if there's some arsenic or some aluminum in it and you take that into your body, you're not likely to absorb that arsenic because it's going to stay bound to the cilantro that you're actually consuming. It's going to pass through you. And the same thing is true with chlorella, by the way. All chlorella grown everywhere in the world, and it's only really produced in 4 countries. That's Japan, Taiwan, China, and India. And there are issues in every country. Taiwan's probably the cleanest source of chlorella that you can get. And, in fact, Enerfood uses Taiwan chlorella, so it's the cleanest source of chlorella in a superfood. I happen to know all this stuff because I research this stuff day in and day out. But chlorella, even if it has a little bit of arsenic in it, a little bit of aluminum, is not that big of a deal because it binds to it and carries it through your body. So,
okay, and I guess just the last question was on the textured vegetable protein. Is that soy, and is all soy, you know, genetic? I drink hemp milk, so I don't do the soy milk, and not really the almond milk, but I try to do the hemp milk and, you know, on the soy, the textured vegetable protein. Have you found out any more information about that? Because I know you're trying to feed it to the wild animals around there, and nothing would eat it.
Yeah, I did do a lot of experiments with some TVP before. Most TVP, as you're talking about textured vegetable protein, is from soy, and most of it is from genetically modified soy. But there may be sources of TVP that are non-GMO. I'm sure there are. And I haven't really studied eFoods Direct in particular. That's not, you know, I don't promote eFoods Direct. They're not my sponsor. I haven't really studied them, but as a general rule, I would say any company that you buy from, if there's TVP in it, if there's corn in it, if there's soy in it, you need to call that company and find out if it's GMO or non-GMO, and you can't just take their word for it. I don't mean eFoods Direct because they're a high-integrity business, but I mean, in general, you can't just take everybody's word for it. You got to demand, where's the lab test that shows that that food is not GMO? And I haven't asked eFoods Direct that question. It's not really my business to, but if you're a customer of theirs, it's your business to do that. So it's probably a good thing to ask, and so they can provide that information and just clear away any kind of doubts that you might have by raising that question. So I would just ask that question of everybody I buy food from, if it's TVP or corn. If it's organic, it's going to be totally non-GMO, and that's the best way to go. But organic food is more expensive, and I know a lot of the storable food is not organic. So anytime it's non-organic, just as a general rule, you want to ask them for certificates that they have no GMOs. Just a good general rule. So thanks for your question. Does that help answer your question?
Yes, but even if it's not GMO, the soy has the estrogen content.
The what content?
Estrogen.
Oh, the estrogen content. Yeah, well, soy has estrogen mimickers in it, but the real issue with soy extracts like TVP is actually the way it's extracted, usually with hexane. Hexane extraction is found in soy proteins that are used in some infant formulas, and I don't like that hexane extraction. So, you know, there's a lot of questions to ask, and you want to do business with organizations that you trust and that are going to provide that documentation just as a general rule. It's just, you know, just a good business practice, and it's a good practice as a consumer. So anyway, I hope that clears it up for you. I hope I'm not getting too technical with all this food science stuff. But anyway, does that answer your question?
Yes, sir, man. Thanks a lot. Keep doing what you're doing.
All right. You bet. Happy to. Thank you for your questions. We got into some detail on that. Anyway, what do we have here? Definitely several minutes left. We're going to take some more calls here. But before we do that, if you appreciate the value of what you're getting from InfoWars, be sure to donate at InfoWarsMoneyBomb.com. Do that. Just go to the website, Vote with your dollars for information that you believe in, for information where all of us here, we always try to tell the truth. We're not 100% accurate. We're probably like 99-point-something% accurate. And when we make a mistake, we admit it and we correct it. But we try to tell the truth. We try to empower people. We try to give you information that makes you healthier, better informed, better able to survive what might be coming our way. And InfoWars is leading that charge. So you can also donate by phone. Call now at 888-253-3139. Again, that number is 888-253-3139, or go to InfoWarsMoneyBomb.com. Now we've got Lori on the phone from Phoenix. Lori, welcome to the broadcast.
Hello, Mike.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm doing good. Just listen to the show all day.
Awesome. That's a fun day. Grab some healthy snacks and tune in, right?
Right. I just wanted to, of course, give thanks to Alex and you. I woke up about a year and a half ago, so I kind of already, I think I was half awake. But I wanted to say a lot of people call in and ask what they can do to do something other than just have all the information and not do anything. I actually found a couple groups of people that started something here with organic gardening, and a couple of them are knowing what's going on, knowing what's coming, and so they want to start like an actual community that shares their gifts and shares their food instead of, using GMO food and
sounds
and all
like a
that
good idea, yeah.
So I just think that's a good idea. I don't know how to garden to save my life, so I'm trying to learn.
Well, you just used the right term, garden to save your life. That skill can literally save your life. So you're on the right path, and you're doing it with a local group then, right?
Yes.
Excellent. That's a great idea. Everybody, we should encourage others to do the same thing.
Yes. I'm not plugging anything, but I just want to say I became an article writer for an online print thing, and that's where I voice my opinion on things that are going on. So you'd be surprised what you can do when you really start thinking outside of the box, outside of your normal life.
Absolutely, yeah. Do you have a blog site or something you want to share?
No, it's the Examiner here in Phoenix that I write for.
Okay.
So just if people really start just thinking outside of their comfort zone, they might be amazed at what doors open up.
That's true. You raise a really good point that this is not an academic exercise just to become an expert in, alternative information, which is really more and more mainstream information. It's not just so we can sit around and impress each other with how much we know about the Bilderbergers or whatever the case may be. This is about action. This is about making a positive change. This is about surviving. This is about peaceful revolution. We want to make changes for the better. That's what, that's what revolution really means, to help us move forward and revolve the system into a new system that is improved. And we can, in the case of the Constitution, to revolve all the way 360 degrees back to the system that we know worked, the Bill of Rights, for example. But it's funny, actually in a lot of philosophy, they talk about the spiral, where you're returning to the same concepts, but now at a higher level. So we're returning to the Constitution and the Bill of Rights, but now expressed in a more profound way, in a more advanced society, let's say. But the Bill of Rights is the core that we keep coming back to, and it's got to be. Free speech has got to be the core, private property rights, the right to be secure in your person and property, and so on. All of these things, the right to keep and bear arms, for example. All of these things must be essential elements, even as we spiral and evolve and grow and add layers of complexity to society, and embrace new technologies and expand our awareness on all of these things that we do as human beings attempting to move forward as a civilization. It's a big deal. But anyway, sorry I got off track with the caller there, but thank you, Lori, for your call about gardening. That's very good information. And we have just 2 minutes left. I want to take one more call, but before we do that, coming up in just 2 minutes or so, we've got a short video of the Money Bomb auction and some of the gifts that are available with your donation. So they are giving away some good items for you and a few auction items that are available to help raise money for this organization that is doing such great work in what's now mainstream news. This is the new mainstream. So let's go to, is it Ed in Arizona? Ed, can you hear me?
Yeah, can you hear me?
All right, yeah, I can. Welcome to the broadcast. Go ahead.
Funny, I'm actually in Tucson, so not far from the last caller, but I know you're not a medical doctor, you don't give medical advice, but what would you say about psoriasis and skin issues?
Yeah, skin issues are typically a result of, it's an inflammation symptom that's expressed in the skin, and it typically goes along with inflammation of the large intestine, believe it or not. There's a very strong link between skin health and large intestine health. Typically, these kinds of skin conditions can be, maybe in about half the cases, they can be eliminated with a healthy intake of omega-3 fatty acids, healthy oils. Sometimes there are also some mineral deficiencies. Typically, zinc is associated with skin health. So if you're lacking zinc and you're lacking omega-3s, you're very likely to develop skin conditions. It doesn't mean that those things are a cure for everybody, but they can, in many people, resolve the issue so you don't have those symptoms anymore. But more importantly, you probably have large intestine issues, and for most people, and again, I'm not a doctor, so I'm not giving you medical advice. I'm just saying for most people, those large intestine inflammation issues are derived from the dietary intake of gluten. So there are a lot of reasons not to eat wheat, not to eat gluten. You might want to try 30 days without gluten and see what happens and see if it affects your skin condition. It's not something that is intuitively linked, but try it. You might be amazed. Does that information help there?
Yeah, I just want to give thanks to Natural News and all the alternative media for helping me get off pharmaceutical drugs and junk food. It's been like my life has changed so much for the better, so I just wanted to thank you guys.
Wow, thank you. That's great to hear. That's just, that really makes my day just to hear that, you know? We don't hear it from, I don't hear from a lot of people a lot of the times. I just keep writing and educating. It's nice to hear the impact in your life and how it's helped. So thank you for that. And thank you for your calls. We've got a short video straight ahead. We'll be right back. After this video, I'll be here with you. Stay tuned.
It's time once again.